If you want to be a big cop in a small town, fuck off down the model village.
And we've got the episode intro. Thank you, James.
Excellent.
Welcome to NerdSchatting, movie, TV, comic chat. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome, everybody, to the NerdSchatting podcast. My name is Nate, and with me today, across the internet, as ever, as we're all in lockdown, are my two very good friends and co-hosts, JB and Ben. Hello, boys. How are you?
Hello, I'm great. How are you doing?
Really good, thanks. Ben?
Hello, how are you all doing today? I don't know why I just asked that question.
I did it that way around because that's the way around it is on my screen. But if I minimize that and then maximize it again, oh no, you're still that way around.
Yeah.
This is great radio. Great radio.
Right.
No,
Well, now you've
great.
swapped round. Now you've swapped round. So we could do it again if you want. I could do Ben, JB, or we'll just carry on. Whatever.
No, let's carry on, I think.
Okay. So we're the NerdSchatting. We talk about all things nerdy, comic books, TV shows, movies, and all sorts of things like that. 9 years ago today, /17th of April, a massive TV show aired in the world. You might have heard of it. It's called Game of Thrones. So we thought we'd have a look back. We thought we'd have a look back and talk about some good things, things we loved about it. But before that, should we do some broken news?
Yes, please.
Let's do it.
Broken news.
So this is broken news. This is news that's so old it's already broken. It's not breaking. Ben, this first bit of news is yours. I mean, it's sad and it's all of ours, but it means nothing to me.
Yes. Okay. So on, I think it was the 15th of April, Brian Dennehy passed away. Now, Nathan, because you're a young'un, you probably don't know who Brian Dennehy is, but
Absolutely know who Brian Dennehy is.
you do. Okay, that's good. Well,
I have no emotional connection to him.
he's one of those guys. He's been in everything. He's in First Blood. He's in Cocoon. He's in Gladiator. Not that one. He's in Romeo and Juliet. He's in FX Murder by Illusion. He was in absolutely everything. He was one of those 80s stars who you saw his face everywhere. You're like, oh, that guy's in it. Oh, that would probably be quite good. I think he was 80 something when he passed away. I should probably look it up. But I just, I thought he was a great actor, and I am sad to have seen him go. And I will link in a video that the Joe Blow website did, which was him talking in an interview a couple of years ago about sort of acting towards the end of his life, and it was very poignant, and it was intercut with sort of famous scenes from films that he did, and it was great. It was absolutely brilliant. Anyway, James,
I was going to say, what a great film Cocoon was.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
flipping loved that film.
Cocoon is a great film. A great film.
Is he in Cocoon the Return as well?
Yes, he is. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Sort of skinny-legged, barrel-chested, permanently sort of white-haired.
Yeah. Was he one of the aliens in Cocoon? What did he play?
Yes, he was. Yeah.
Oh,
I can't remember his character's name, but he was like the lead alien, basically.
I've found it. It's Walter. I'll tell you what, I could easily go and watch that film again. I love that film.
So, yeah, very sad news, but R.I.P. Brian Dennehy. He didn't die of the virus that's sweeping the world. I think he died of heart failure or something.
Okay.
R.I.P. that guy.
Yes.
Very sad. It's very, very sad. The next bit of news we've got is a new streaming service. You haven't got enough streaming services already with Netflix and Amazon and Mubi and Disney Plus and others. I mean,
you're forgetting the most important one, Nathan. Nate Plus.
Nate Plus. Yeah, Netflix. Yeah, all those sorts of things. No, there's a new one. HBO Max is being released on the 27th of May. It's $14.99 a month.
That's a lot.
$14.99 a month.
What are we getting on this? What are we getting on HBO Max?
All the stuff you've seen before.
Brilliant. Are we getting anything new?
Yeah, there are going to be some new stuff. There's going to be some new stuff on there. There's Anna Kendrick's got a new series called Love Life. There's a documentary on the record, a non-scripted series called Legendary, children's shows, new Looney Tunes, things like that, and a whole bunch of stuff we've all seen before. But really, I'm not sure it's enough.
I have questions. Is it
Go for it.
$14.99? Yeah, it's $14.99 per month. It won't be that much in the UK. It'll be $7.99.
Do you think so?
If it's going to come to the UK, yeah, it won't be $14.99. Guaranteed.
I think it will be more than $7.99. Even Netflix is £10 a month now.
Is it?
Is it?
Yeah.
I should know this. Can I just ask though that there's how many? There are loads of streaming shows now, or
Services.
Disney services. Thank you very much. But don't Americans already pay for HBO separately, and now they've got to pay for something more?
So
we
presumably
don't get
get
HBO here. We get
No, we
get
don't.
it through Sky Atlantic.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Presumably, if you pay for HBO, you can cancel that and then get HBO Max as a streaming service and get your shows through that. I would think.
I've got the perfect advert voice as well for this. It's like, do you sit at home and just have HBO? You could have HBO Max.
Very good. Yeah, I mean, there's the only one of the things that interests me on the list of stuff is the Not Too Late show with Elmo, which looks kind of fun, which is the Late Show but not the Late Show, but with Elmo and other Sesame Street and Muppet characters.
Brilliant.
I mean,
I'm all about that.
So.
I'd like that program. I've just looked it up, by the way, and I've read an Express article, and it says, will HBO Max be available in the UK? And it says, at the moment, it is unknown if HBO Max will be available in the UK. For now, it looks highly unlikely, with no plans announced to bring the streaming service overseas. So I don't genuinely know if we're going to get it. I mean, you can probably get it if you've got like a VPN and you can just, set yourself as an American IP and off you go.
Because of the pandemic, weren't HBO giving... There were other things. Do you remember I sent a link to you guys about HBO streaming service or something? But because we're not in America, we couldn't get it unless, obviously, Ben pulling in his virtual private network, VPN, you might be able to get it. But, I don't know. I'm not sure about this either, Nate. I'm with you on this.
There's only two things. There's just one thing. But there's actually two. They are making the Green Lantern series, which is going to be coming out on this at some point. Although it's Greg Berlanti, so it's basically Flowerverse.
Oh.
So
deep burn.
Yeah, deep burn. And then the other thing is the next piece of news. Segue in.
Okay. Oh, segue.
On HBO Max, it's been announced that J.J. Abrams, as we like to call him, is going to be producing a Justice League Dark show. Now, we've known that J. Abrams has been sold his soul to the devil and is going to be working solely for Warner Media for the foreseeable future with his what's his production company?
Bad Robot.
What? Yeah.
Bad
So
Robot.
he's taken himself and Bad Robot over to Warner Brothers because I think he's been burned in other places.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he's making Justice League Dark. James, you have a question about Justice League Dark?
Yes. What is Justice League Dark?
Well, it's okay, Joss. Thank you. So, Justice League Dark is a comic book series, and it's a team of people, much like the Justice League, but they all work in the magical realms. So they more or less they're normally led by Constantine, and you've got people like Zatanna, who's a master magician, sorceress, and you've got Deadman, who is shock, a dead man. Yeah, he's a bit like Quantum Leap. He can only he has to inhabit someone's body in order to be able to talk and interact with them. He can't leave this realm.
Okay.
Yeah, and they could do some. Often it has people like Swamp Thing, things like that in there. Animal Man's been in it before a little bit. It's pretty cool.
Is it pretty cool or pretty good?
Pretty good.
Okay.
Ben, do you have any thoughts on Justice League Dark?
Yeah, I've never read a Justice League Dark comic. I have read some crossovers every now and then where some of the members jump into like the Justice League and they do some shenanigans. And they're always kind of fun. But my question was going to be, do you think that the cancelled Swamp Thing show will pull that character into that world. Do you think Constantine, who was in his own show and then was sort of put into the Flowerverse, do you think he'll come into it, or do you think they'll recast? Do you think it's all going to be like a complete reset, or it's going to build on what they've already sort of introduced here and there?
Well,
I just
think
asked
the
20
most
questions, didn't I? Sorry.
The most interesting thing for me is the recent Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover in the Flowerverse, where not only did they bring in legacy characters and they made it, a really big event, and it was, I haven't seen it, but it sounds like it was a good bit of TV. But spoilers for the end of that, they brought in Ezra Miller as Flash from the movies. Now, look, we can debate whether he'll still be the Flash or not till the cows come home after his whole choke incident. But what that does show is a commitment to crossovers in other formats and other mediums and other universes. So they're kind of accepting that the DC universes have this multiverse. So long answer down to a short answer is I think they probably will bring in things like Swamp Thing. They probably will bring in Constantine. I think Constantine was the chap who played him. Was an English actor, wasn't he? It's escaped my mind. But he was very popular as Constantine, which is why they brought him into the Flowerverse. So it wouldn't surprise me if his popularity ensured that he was brought in on this as well. Yes.
What happened to Swamp Thing? Why did it get cancelled? Was it because it was crap?
No, apparently people loved it. It got cancelled while they were making it.
Why?
It was like 7 episodes in or something.
Do we know why? The reason?
No.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just checking.
Yeah.
And
Let me ask Google.
Did you know that are you any of you two watching Batgirl?
No.
Because it's on E4. I recorded the first one and I was going to watch it and I was like, nah, can't be bothered.
I hear good things. I hear very good things. But then you've always heard good things about Arrow and always heard good things about Flash. And the first two seasons of Arrow were great. And Flash was good fun.
Yeah, it went all wrong with Ben. What's it called?
Zoom.
Well, no,
when they went back in time, when they went on it, when it went to the different worlds, it went awful.
Tomorrow. No, you mean
Flashpoint. That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Flashpoint. You got it, Ben. You got it.
I think Swamp Thing may have had some production issues in North Carolina where it was shooting, and there may have been some tax reasons, and it was suddenly very expensive or something like that. I think we've talked about this before. Yeah. I don't know. There's a whole article here. There's so many words. I can't read it all right now. I'm trying to record a podcast. It doesn't matter.
Okay, how about some fun news? You want some fun news?
Yeah, let's do some fun news.
So Joss Wheedon is rumored to be talking to Marvel about directing a Fantastic Four movie. Is that a slow clap or a happy clap?
That's a happy clap. I'm okay with Joss Whedon as a director and as a Marvel movie director, and I think he'd do great things with the Fantastic Four. It obviously is all script dependent. Marvel are a machine, though, so they're not going to just pump out a remake of the 2005, whatever it was, Fantastic Four film. And it won't be a dark body horror take on it like the what's it called, the Josh Trank Fantastic, whatever the hell it was going to be. Yeah. It won't be that. It'll be something akin to Avengers, but with a bit different, but it will still have that bantery bit. I think it'll be good if he does get involved. I think it'll be great.
I agree. I think it looks good. JB, you've got not so sure face.
Well, I just think that the Fantastic Four films that have come and we've seen have been rubbish. I mean, really rubbish. I think the last one was on TV, and I actually said to you guys, shall I record it and watch it? And I had a unanimous no. Don't even do it, bruv. And I was like, okay, it must be bad if you both said that. So yeah, I mean, I guess the only way is up. Let's just see.
It's true.
I mean, sorry, Nathan. I was just going to very quickly say the Fantastic Four Josh Trank movie does start relatively okay. it just then goes off the rails massively. Like the second and third act is just completely gone to pot. So yeah, it's not worth your time. Anyway, Nathan, sorry, go ahead.
Well, two things. I mean, the first thing is that we've documented this before, that I love the Fantastic Four comics, and the Jonathan Hickman run on the Fantastic Four is absolutely incredible. It's just a fantastic series. If anyone is thinking about getting into Fantastic Four, they should give that a go. Jonathan Hickman's run, it crosses over with Shield and the Future Foundation and Spider-Man and Avengers, and it all comes together, and it's Secret Warriors, and yeah, it's a magnificent masterpiece. So there is great Fantastic Four content out there to be adapted from. But the other interesting piece of news, John Krasinski of The Office and Jack Ryan fame,
and also A Quiet Place and A Quiet Place 2.
And A Quiet Place 2. Basically, handsomest man on the planet, everyone loves him, John Krasinski, has been rumored to be, or at least been interested by fans to be, to play Reed Richards in Fantastic Four for many years. And now that he's come of a certain age that maybe is appropriate for the character, and suddenly we have this piece of news where Joss Wheedon is maybe possibly going to be doing a Fantastic Four movie. John Krasinski on his new YouTube channel, because of the lockdown, he's started a new YouTube channel called Some Good News, where he does some funny skits and all sorts of interesting stuff. On his latest episode, about 2.5 minutes in, he makes a interesting comment about the closest thing he'll ever go to playing a superhero or a comic book character, and then he does the Jim face, gives you a So the internet has gone wild. These things seem to be colliding together, and we think John Krasinski might actually going to be playing Reed Richards in a Fantastic Four movie. I think this is what we've said before, where they put out a feeler, see what people think of it. If people like it, they'll go with it. I've got a backup piece of news on that if you're interested. I'll let you comment in a second, but I just want to give you some more context. Rosario Dawson was interviewed recently about playing Ahsoka.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I can't wait for that to be confirmed. I'm really looking forward to that to being confirmed. The internet seems quite keen on that.
Wow.
Well, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about Fantastic Four and John Krasinski and Joss Wheedon, or are we talking about Star Wars and Ahsoka Tano and Rosario Dawson? What's going on here, Nathan?
I'm saying for context that what they do is they throw out a little fishy, and then they catch a big fish.
Yes, they do.
Oh, yeah. Very good. Very good.
So thoughts on John Krasinski as Fantastic Four lead?
Go ahead, James.
Can he do any wrong at the moment?
Nope.
I don't think he can. So I'd say great, do it. He's riding a wave.
They need someone charismatic and likable in that role, because I think they have cast a couple of awkward gentlemen in the past few versions.
Mm-hmm.
They need a new Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
And he could feel that. He could do that.
A little bit of trivia here. John Krasinski was shortlisted to play Steve Rogers, Captain America, in Captain America: The First Avenger.
Was he really?
Yes, he was. Yeah. He obviously didn't take the part, but he was.
He was given it.
Screen tested or given it. Yeah.
I think they wanted Evans. I think Evans. There's a story about him. They like chased him for it, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to get locked down to this. I'm not sure." And he went home, and his kids were like, "You need to be Captain America.
Yeah.
You need to be Captain America."
Just think if he didn't have kids, he would have not probably done it then.
Yeah. Yeah. Next piece of news.
Yes, sure. Next piece of news.
Oh, this is so exciting. This is so exciting. But I don't know if either of you are excited at all. But they have released the first images from Denis Villeneuve's DUNE. And DUNE Part 1. They've also announced it's going to be a 2-parter.
Yes, that's good, because that means they'll be lifting straight from the source material. They won't be hacking it to bits like the 1980 whatever version did. You do realize, though, Nathan, we are recording this podcast on Wednesday evening. It will go out late Friday, early Saturday morning at some point, by which time it'll already be old news because a trailer would have landed. You know that, don't you?
I
Good,
can't wait.
okay.
Good. I'm excited. Let's say it right now. I'll give you my review for the trailer right now. I absolutely love it.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I probably
It's
will
Denis
too.
Villeneuve sci-fi. Well, how am I not going to love this?
I tell you
Yeah.
what, there's a hell of a cast for this show.
I know. You read some of them
There
out.
is.
Honestly, go on.
I don't want to because I'm
All
going
right.
to say the names wrong.
I'll read Timothée Chalamet, who is great. I mean, he was absolutely fantastic in Little Women. He's a great actor. Rebecca Ferguson, who's she was in sorry?
Yes. Mission Impossible.
Yeah, no, what's the singy one with Hugh
Great
Jackman?
Showman.
She was a great showman. Oscar Isaac, like you say, he was on a hot streak. You've got Josh Brolin, Stellan Skarsgård, Dave Bautista. Who else have we got in there? Dave Dashtam, I can never say his name. Right,
I got stuck on that one.
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem. Yeah, this is going to be. Jason Momoa, Charlotte Rampling.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
this is something else. This movie.
There's some
Movie.
big money. There's big money going into this.
But having said that, there was big money and big names going into Blade Runner 2049, which was amazing, but it made no money.
Is that and cats? Lots of big names, a lot of money, and then cats, which is shit.
Yeah, fair. Yeah. You know who we've missed out? We've missed out old Mary Jane is in it as well.
Oh, Zendaya. Yeah.
Daya, thank you. Yeah, yeah. And
Um,
she's very Mary Jane.
I got two concerns. Okay, two
Yes, sir.
concerns. One I've only just discovered because I'm looking through the cast list and I'm looking at the director of cinematography, and it's not Roger Deakins, it's Greg Fraser. Now, don't get me wrong, Denis Villeneuve knows how to set up a shot and knows what he wants on the camera. So I don't think that it not being Roger Deakins is going to be a massive problem. But at the same time, it's not Roger Deakins, therefore it's not going to look like some of the last couple of Denis Villeneuve movies have looked. The other thing I'm concerned about is, does Denis Villeneuve make movies that are critically successful, fantastic movies, but just no one goes to see them? And I'm really concerned that this is what's going to happen with Dune, or Dune, or however you say it.
So it's Greg Fraser you're talking about? What's
Yes.
Greg Fraser been doing though in his time?
Oh, Greggy, Fraser. Oh,
So
mate.
he's done
We've got
some of the
Fraser in something
Mandalorian,
else. Yeah.
Vice, Rogue One, Lion, The Gambler, Foxcatcher.
Zero Dark 30.
Yeah, I think. Do you know? I think he'll do.
Sure, fine.
You're happy, Nate. You're happy. I just hope you manage your expectations, because if
I know.
the trailer is crap, you're going to be really upset and grumpy, and then Ben and I are going to have to put up with you for at least
11 years.
2 weeks, at least, not 11 years.
Have you
Not
you looked at the images though, guys? Have you got any thoughts on what they evoke in you?
They look very much like they are keeping with the look and the aesthetic of the 1980s movie, which I guess is lifted straight from the book. I've not read the book. I am not a it feels like it's a bit much for me, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's on the
Too
pile
vast.
over there, literally
Oh.
just over there. I'm going to read it in the next few weeks.
Okay.
But
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, it looks like a practical sci-fi movie. It looks like whilst there will be obviously outlandish effects in it, it looks like they're trying to keep everything on camera. I like some of the suit designs that you've got, like Josh Brolin wearing with his graying goatee beard, and what's the suit that Oscar Isaac is wearing? Is he in Atreides?
Yes.
Is he in Atreides?
Yes. Yeah,
And there's a
that's,
Baron
Mr.
Harkonnen as
Atreides.
well, or something. Oh, I don't know.
Yes. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. All of those things.
Cool. I'm sure it will be critically well received, and I'm sure it will be an amazing movie. I just hope that people go to see it.
James, what are your thoughts on the previous Denis Villeneuve movies? Arrival, Blade Runner 2049, Prisoners. Help me out. Anything else he did?
Cario.
I can definitely tell you, because out of the movies that you've watched, I've only watched one of them, which is Arrival. But actually,
No, you've seen Cario.
Oh yes, I have. Sorry, yes, I have. Yeah, so that was awesome. Arrival was really good, actually. I really enjoyed it, and I do need to see Blade Runner 20. Have you got it on your DVD collection? Did I miss
I
it?
literally could have delivered it
But
to you.
I think it's on Netflix, so I don't
Yeah.
need the disc, so it's
Yeah, I
fine.
think it is.
But yes, I loved. Well, I love Sicario. It was absolutely outstanding, and Arrival was hard hitting and played well. It was quite. I thought Arrival was quite an arty type of film, though.
Yeah. He
some
does
way.
do that sort of stuff. Yeah.
It was intriguing, and I sat and watched the whole thing without picking my phone up, so it must have been good.
He makes
that
a
is
more sort of thinky, thoughtful blockbuster film rather than what's the chap who makes the Transformers movies? Michael Bay. More than like a Michael Bay, everything explodes, the camera's turning 360, helicopters flying overhead sort of movie. He doesn't do that. He's a different type of director.
I'm very excited for this, as you can tell.
Yeah, I think it's good.
I think that might be the end of the news, News
Yeah.
is light, isn't it? It's light at the minute.
Yeah, nothing's happening.
So, without any further ado, shall we move on to NerdScene?
NerdScene.
Yeah.
So this is where we talk about stuff that we've watched and seen. It's a play on words, but you understand that.
Don't worry about it.
Ben, I don't know if you've seen, but I've mixed things up so that we take it in turns.
I have. I like it. I like it a lot. So I'll go first then, shall I? Am I going first?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've watched 4 episodes of season 1 of the TV show You on Netflix. I won't spoil it, but what I will say is it shouldn't be called You. It should be called How to Become a Stalker and do it successfully. The TV show it's really good, and the pilot episode is fantastic. And it makes you want to immediately watch the next episode. Now we're trying not to do that at the moment, obviously, because we've got quite a lot of time on our hands. But we've got season 1, which is 10 episodes, and season 2, which is I think another 10 episodes to smash through, and it won't take us long, and we're really, really enjoying it. Basically, set the story. Guy is the manager of a bookstore. Someone walks in, he becomes enamored with them and decides to stalk them. And it plays out from there, and it's absolutely incredibly well done, but very hard hitting in some areas.
It's tense.
Very tense, and it does tell you that if you are on social media and you have your profile open to the entire world, you are stupid, because you could bump into anyone and you have absolutely no idea who people are and what they would find or glean from your personal information if you have it open to the world. Yeah, it's good. It's very good. Anyway, I won't spoil it because James wants to watch it.
Yes, please.
Okay. So my one's next. I watched a movie called Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is streaming on a service called Mubi, which I talked to you guys about before. It's a French film about an artist who. So it's a period piece, and she has to paint a portrait of a young lady who is betrothed to be married, and in the process of painting her portrait, they fall in love, and it is a heartbreaking love story, and it's really excellent. It's really, really excellent.
You're recommending a foreign language period piece and a love story. Who are you?
Yeah, it's real good.
He's living with his girlfriend. That's what's going on.
Yeah.
Boys, it's just because it's an arty movie, and I don't know if you're aware of this, but I studied film.
Oh my God!
Oh, I forgot. You got an AS level in film, didn't you? I forgot about it.
Oh dear.
Got GMVQ level 2 in how to turn on a video camera.
Correct. An HNB? No, I don't know. HNB. No. So yeah, Portrait of a Lady on Fire. It's really, really great. If you want some really emotional, deep, and interesting movie with some sexy stuff in it, it's really, really worth watching.
Oh, You's got quite a lot of sexy stuff in it. Just FYI.
Okay.
Just FYI. Yeah.
James, what do you got?
So I watched Knives Out last week, which I thought it was very, very good. Daniel Craig was, I think he was awesome in it, and it took me a long time to get used. I thought it was just what is it? Someone throwing their voice, a ventriloquist or whatever. I thought it was somebody else, and I couldn't get my head around his voice and his accent, but it was brilliant, just the way that he was. The whole murder mystery. I did both. Me and the wife really enjoyed it. It was well worth the invest.
He plays a Southern gentleman named
He
Benoit
does.
Blanc, doesn't he? And
He
I
does. I
do
love
declare
that.
he does
Yeah.
a very good Southern gentleman voice.
It's very good, Ben. That was good as well.
Thanks.
Nate.
I don't want to spoil it because I think people should watch it. But isn't it interesting the way it's structured, in that the events that unfold. I really don't want to spoil it, but like, it's sort of on its head, right? It's like the opposite.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought it was almost a film like you would read a book. Does that make sense? So the book would play it out, and then but you had your own thoughts to be able to find the gaps, and you're like, oh right, yeah, and this and that. It was just like a big game of Cluedo. That's what it felt like. I loved the way at the start that the way that the family were being interviewed, and it was just like everything felt clean and green, best family in the world, we all love each other. And then you get this little thing there, like little scratch like that. Oh, what have we found now? A whole big bag of pus.
But everyone's great in it. It's not just Dennis Quaid. I think everyone is great in it.
No, they are very good. They are very, very good. And I've also just sneaked this in. I also rewatched.
No, I've moved you. I've moved that to later on, James.
Oh,
Hold on.
I didn't. Oh, I didn't refresh. I haven't seen it. Oh my God, you're updating the map. Right, fine. I didn't say anything. Sorry.
Okay. Ben, you're up next.
Oh, am I? Oh, I do beg your pardon. Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Incognito, which is a comic book by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Now, I have been inhaling absolutely everything that they have written and drawn together over the last 12, 18 months. I've done all of Criminal. I've done Sleeper. I've done Fatale. I've done Kill or Be Killed. And this, I think, was one of the last things I had to read that they have worked on together. A very quick premise is the world has superheroes in them, and they're sort of science-based 1930s type superheroes. Like they've all got like laser guns, and they've all got weird powers, and they're not like traditional powers that you would have. Like a Superman or a Green Lantern or something like that, or a Flash. They're all sort of like sciencey based. It's difficult to explain, but anyway, one of these supervillains and his brother may or may not still be alive, and he went into the witness protection program, and he was given drugs to sort of suppress his powers, but he's absolutely bored to death being in the witness protection program, and he sort of comes off of his drugs by taking other sort of recreational drugs and masks up and sort of becomes a vigilante again. And it's really, really good because it's set in the same sort of world that Ed Brubaker thrives in. It's almost like a criminal world, but there are superheroes in it. It's great. It's absolutely great. There's 2 volumes. I've got the hardcover, the entire omnibus of it, and I'm 2 issues away from the end, and I am loving it.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I've read some of it before. It's combining what Brubaker does best. He does crime really well and superheroes really well, and he's just smashed them together, isn't he? So
yeah, it's brilliant. It's really good. If you like a superhero, like an off-kilter sort of superhero story, or you like a crime story, or even like a noir sort of thriller type comic book, recommended.
Cool. So my one next. We watched Westworld season 2, all 10 episodes. It's not as good as the first season, is it?
No. But the first season was outstanding.
Agreed. I did enjoy it. I thought there were some filler episodes. I thought that, hopefully not spoilers for everyone, but I thought that Maeve's storyline was drawn out, even though she could have been one of the really interesting characters. I did enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I did really enjoy it, and watched it with the hopes to watch season 3, which is now out. but I think it could have been an end. It was a nice full stop. Doesn't necessarily need to be a season 3, I don't think. But I am intrigued as to what they're going to do with it. And I know you guys have seen some of season 3, so
No,
it's
Ben
difficult to do
hasn't. Ben hasn't.
Oh.
It's only me, and
Oh,
I'm having to really zip it as well because I just want to.
Yeah.
I want to blurt loads of stuff out, but I'm being real brave.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And there were some good twists in there, and there's some interesting stuff. But you're right, James. I think that to try to fill those shoes is a real challenge. So yeah. So there you go. That's it. James, yours next?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I watched. I decided that it was time that I watched Ghostbusters.
Yay! Woo!
Yeah.
The crowd goes wild.
Yeah. So yeah, it was fine.
You don't want to talk about it because we might be reviewing it.
We might be reviewing. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. I like I like Venkman. No, I like Venkman. He cracks me up. Is he a scientist or is he not? Is he? I don't really know.
He is a poor scientist, Dr. Venkman.
He has PhDs in psychology and parapsychology.
Yeah, well, that's right. But when I was watching it, it made me feel a little bit like we were the Ghostbusters, and I'm Venkman because I don't know anything about all the stuff that you know about. I just kind of dribble and drabble my way through things. But
I think that makes me Egon.
Yeah, who does that make us then? So Nathan's Egon and I'm who?
You're Ray.
You're Ray.
Because Ray's got all the energy, he's excited.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I didn't find it too scary, apart from when the hands come out of the sofa. That made me jump a little bit.
Yeah, that's good.
I mean, the special effects are awful, but it's fun.
Moving on. Let's move on. We'll talk about this next week.
We'll talk about that in a fortnight's time. Yeah. God damn it, James, you're a heathen.
Ben, you're up next.
Yes, I have downloaded and replayed the Batman Arkham Asylum game and completed that and had a great time doing it. And it's so atmospheric and brilliant. We talked about it on last fortnight's podcast, and it was as good as I remember. And I've started playing Arkham City, and I will tell you, not as good as I remember it.
Oh, interesting.
Still good, but not. I think the story in Arkham Asylum is a lot more dense.
Yes, that's tight. Is City the prequel? No, that's
Arkham Origins. That came out after City and before Arkham Knight. Yeah. I've just got to the bit in Arkham City though where you have to take on Mr. Freeze and you've got to attack him in like 7 or 8 different ways.
I remember. Yeah.
It's real hard.
Like a puzzle fight. It's a puzzle fight, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Good fun.
I'm up next. I read the book Frankenstein by Mary Shelley.
Nice.
It's a good book. Clearly, it's a classic. But by God, it's miserable. Oh my God! It's just every page is. And I was melancholy, and then there was death, and I was sad, and oh my God, it's yeah. And I did enjoy reading it. I realized that I didn't know the story. I mean, I know what Hollywood has put out there, and I know what Hollywood suggests about the monster and about the creation of the monster, but it's really different to what people think about it. It's really not the sort of standard, it's alive and all the electricity and stuff. It's not that. And I think actually Boris Karloff 50s movie, Ben, you help me out on this, 30s movie?
Yes.
Yeah, I think that might actually be more accurate because the monster does go off and lives in the shed behind the family, and then the villagers do throw stuff at him. It's I don't know, it's different. No one's likable in it. Not a single being in it is likable.
You'd fit in
at all. Burn. Deep burn.
Deep, accurate burn. Well done, JP.
Speaking of burns, James, what's your next one?
Oh my God! I tell you what, we couldn't go from one thing, Frankenstein, to the thing that I've watched. So in my missing my Love Island fix, and through people telling me that I should watch this show, I am five episodes into a reality TV show on Netflix called Too Hot to Handle. Yes, you guys are gonna absolutely hate this show, but for me, I absolutely love it. I love all the psychology about it. So to give you a little bit of a dive into this show, there's a a virtual assistant called Lana. Okay, um, and these how do I put them? Aesthetically pleasing people are all put on this little island. I think it's just in Mexico. Unlike Love Island, we've got different nationalities in there. We've got American, Canadian, Australian. Obviously, there's British. Have I missed any type? No, I think that's probably all of them. And so the premise is to teach these young, fit, horny, single people to create genuine connections, because all they do in their normal Instagram life is just fuck anything that moves.
Wow. You got there. You got there in the end. You built us up and then you knocked us down, didn't you?
I mean, what it actually says is their usual flings, but they're basic. I've never met people like this, and
No.
they're all very. They're going on a journey. They all feel, I think, at the start, they're all very self-absorbed in themselves. You know, like I said, you've got the blokes, and I think the guy from Australia, and I've forgotten his name. Is it him or is it Kells? It doesn't really matter. One of them says, "Oh, I've never really had any problems picking up girls. I mean, I just walk into a club and take my shirt off." I'm like that.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
Wow.
What an asshole.
So hang on. So this is on Netflix. So it's not like
It is a-
it's
it's-
like Love Island, but Netflix.
So it's 8 episodes. Okay. What I haven't said is that at the start of the show they all go in there and they're just talking about sex. Then all of a sudden this bombshell's dropped by the virtual assistant line and say you're not allowed to engage in any sexual activity, which includes by yourself. Kissing is banned. And so they're trying. They go through workshops and everything as a part of the show. And there's money available, £100,000, $100,000. But if they do kiss or do anything more than that, then they lose money.
Right. Okay.
And so at the end of the show, the money will be divvied up. But I don't know how it will be divvied up and between whom. Okay,
Right.
but then on the episode that I'm on, they've got these smartwatches, and if you are talking with someone and you have a connection, the watch will go green, and that gives you the opportunity. I don't know how long for, but you're then able to have a kiss and a cuddle, and that's as far as I've got.
So it's reality TV, right? I mean, as much as reality
Yes.
TV is manufactured anyway, but it's not a drama.
No, it's not. No, it's reality TV.
Right.
I mean, do you guys have you ever watched Seinfeld?
Yeah.
Because it's based on the contest. There's an episode in that, I believe.
Okay.
I'm just reading that actually
Right.
on Wikipedia. It says based on the contest from Seinfeld by Larry
Yeah.
David and Jerry Seinfeld.
Brilliant.
Wow.
Brilliant.
So yes, it's just interesting TV. I mean, it's in the same way I watched Westworld season 1, and I was on the edge of my seat and my mouth was open because of just the awesomeness of the show and how groundbreaking it was. I have that with Too Hot to Handle, but just how I'm just shocked how some people are. And maybe I just live in a little village in the
Little bubble.
southwest and a little bubble, but I'm just like, wow.
Okay, well, we'll handbrake turn again into another thing. I've been reading a book called A Farewell to Arms, which is written by Ernest Hemingway, which is a love story about the war. It's a story about an American in the Italian army in World War One who falls in love with a British nurse, and then horrible stuff happens. And I'm about three quarters of the way through it, and it's really sad. I've got a theme with my books. It's not really. It's not as sad as and melancholy as Frankenstein, but it is a very, very good book, and I
Are you
recommend.
trying to read a lot of classics at the moment, Nathan?
Not necessarily. Just realised there were a few things I hadn't. I realised I'd not read any Hemingway, and I was a bit of research, and people said that was his finest book. It's a bit weird to begin with. It's not written like normal prose. It's almost like poetry, and it was a bit like, oh, I'm not sure I understand what's going on here, and then it gets into it, and you're like, oh, okay, now I understand why I'm supposed to be reading it like this. Yeah, and I just yeah, it's very interesting, and it's forced me to look into the First World War. Do you know anything about the First World War?
Yes, I subscribe to a YouTube channel called The Great War, which did like a weekly YouTube video for the anniversary, the 100th anniversary of the start of the war and the end of the war and all that sort of thing. Yeah, so I know a little bit about it.
Yeah, it's absolutely horrific. One of the
Yes.
worst things to ever happen
Yes.
ever in history.
Yes.
There were battles where hundreds of thousands of men were killed in one battle.
Yes, because they were all using tactics from 30 years ago where they just walk in a straight line slowly towards the enemy.
Yeah, wearing red trousers and blue tops. The French walked in with bayonets, with red trousers and blue tops, just walked into the lines of the Germans who were wearing grey and green and had metal helmets on and rifles. Just utterly, yeah. So reading the book has forced me to learn stuff, which is good, really.
Well, I mean, if you want to know anything about World War One in a very condensed fashion, just go and watch Blackadder Goes Forth, because not only is it a funny TV show, you also learn an awful lot about the command in charge of the British Army in the First World War and the fact that they were absolutely stupid.
Yes.
Well, what's interesting about this in this book is it's an American in the Italian army. So it not only is it not a British view, which is what we've probably always been, history has shown, our history has pointed out us out is the British history. So it's not only is it an American history, it's also the Italian army as well, which I knew very little about. So yeah, it's very good. I'm enjoying it.
They had a pretty rough time of it, I think, in the First World War.
Yes, they did. And then towards the end, they realized they did not want to be in war, and they wanted to be very much in a different state. James, you're up next.
Oh my, what am I doing? Oh yeah, of course I am. I am still, and I am going to finish. I really will finish Go Set a Watchman, and we're just going to leave it there. I don't need to say any more. Okay. I love you guys.
I read a graphic novel by Sarah Glidden. Now, you'll remember a few weeks back, I told you about a graphic novel called How to Understand Israel in 60 Days or Less by Sarah Glidden, and I loved it. I absolutely adored it, and it made me want to go and buy her next book, which I did straight away, called Rolling Blackouts, and that was brilliant as well. Cannot recommend it highly enough. It's you feel like you're on the journey with her. She has some journalist friends from Seattle who went out to the Middle East. They went to Syria and Iraq and Iran, and they brought along one of their friends who used to be in the Marines who was in the Iraq War, Afghanistan War, and Sarah is just her friend and their friend, and she comes along and she says that she wants to make a comic book of her journey with them. So it's like meta because it's a news company, the journalists, making a news story, and then her making a comic about their journey, and you're reading her making the comic.
Really?
It's brilliant. It's really great, and it's got that uncanny valley thing we've talked about before, because of the art style is very simplistic, but it's still, even with that simplistic element, you get all of this emotion, all of this tension. It's great. Rolling Blackouts by Sarah Glidden. I highly recommend it. Her first one's definitely in Comixology. I don't know if Rolling Blackouts is, but check her out. You can get her books on Amazon as well. So.
Cool.
Ben, what was your next one?
I hosted a Hot Fuzz watch along last week. I think it was last Thursday. It was last Thursday, I think. Yeah. Started at 8:30, and literally we just watched Hot Fuzz and we tweeted about it. It was us and some of our podcast friends. So we have a Hulk, Nicola and Chris, Dave from Jack and the Geeks Talk, Neil from Geico. There's a couple of others as well. Yeah, harsh, but that basically I will link in the episode notes the Twitter, whatever you want to call it, the tweet chain, basically, the thread. And it was great fun. And I hadn't watched Hot Fuzz all the way through for a couple of years, and I'd forgotten how much I enjoyed it. And it was fantastic. And it's probably, I think, the best of the Cornetto trilogy. Slightly head and shoulders above. No, not even head and shoulders. It's a hair's width above Shaun of the Dead for me. Just for me. Just my opinion.
I really love Shaun of the Dead.
No, Hot Fuzz is brilliant. If you want to be a big cop in a small town, fuck off down the model village.
And we've got the episode intro. Thank you, James.
Right, I'm gonna do a quick one now. I'm gonna stop being boring because I have got some actually really interesting stuff on here. Okay, but this next one might be boring. Last time we spoke, last time we did a podcast, I said about the Ryan Holiday Stoicism books that I've been reading. So I read his book Ego is the Enemy and The Obstacle is the Way. But I then found his third book called Stillness is the Key. And again, if you're interested in anything like Stoicism or any philosophy, practical philosophy, it was really good, really interesting. It makes me reflect on where I find my stillness in my body, in my mind, in my soul, in my spirit, all those sorts of things. It's get a little bit fluffy and airy here, but little things like Bert, the blackbird that comes on the windowsill that I've told you guys about. Just watching Bert gives me a bit of stillness and allows me to process things a little bit better. And the stresses that we're having at the moment, I recommend anyone and out there should take a moment to look at things that might help them find a bit of stillness in their life. So it's a book called Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday, and he has some really awesome stories in there from throughout history of some famous people who've used stillness in different ways to overcome, various trials. I mean, for example, JFK in the Cuban Missile Crisis, he talks about the whole of that episode and how that worked out and the way JFK approached it with his stillness and calm. Great book. James, you're next.
I kind of already mentioned this already, but I rewatched Black Panther. And guess what? It was just as good as the first time.
So that's right, James. That's right. It's a brilliant Marvel movie.
Can I just when I came out of the film, when we watched it the first time, the first thing I said that I loved was the opening sequence where it gave you a little bit of backstory about Wakanda. And do you know what? I flipping loved it again. It was great. Yeah, I just was like, it set me up for the movie. It's just set me up. Really, really good movie. I recommend, if you've only seen it once, go and watch it again because you'll probably like it.
I wonder who you're talking to, JB.
Pardon?
I wonder who you're talking to.
I don't know. Nate.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I've got...
You know that I think Michael B. Jordan is poor. It's close, but he is probably the best villain in a Marvel movie from that movie.
Yep.
And everything in that movie is great, apart from the terrible CGI. It throws me out of that film.
It's not that bad.
It is bad. You watch it. It's PlayStation 2. It's PlayStation 2. At the end, it's bad.
At the end, I can.
When they're fighting on the train and they're jumping over each other.
I can. You've seen it for a second time, haven't you? I know you have.
No.
I will agree with you a little bit on that, but I don't think it's enough to take away from how great a film it is.
Fair enough.
Agreed.
Yeah. Okay, I got one more. So this isn't a thing I've been reading or watching, but I have been playing quite a lot of board games online on a website called boardgamearena.com. And again, I recommend people check it out because it's allowed us to play board games with our friends and family who we are very distant from at the minute. Whack on a WhatsApp call or a house party or a Discord, and you can have a chat with them whilst playing things like Carcassonne and Seven Wonders and what other games have we played? Saboteur, that's good. That's a good one. Yeah, lots of good fun out there. And so again, it's another thing for staying well and being able to connect with people. You can play with random people from the internet, or you can find your friends and family and get on there as well. So Board Game Arena, highly recommended.
Cool.
James, you're up.
Yeah. So I mentioned it a little bit. I mentioned it last week about blink list. So I have read various blinks, which include radical collaboration, the life-changing magic of not giving a fuck, simplicity parenting, and the
Sorry.
eighth habit.
Sorry,
Um,
that title of that second book, The Life-Changing Magic of Not Giving a Fuck, is
Yeah.
probably one of the best things I've ever heard.
Yeah,
Brilliant.
it's really really good. I mean, it's just books, slim down, just get the information that I need, and then I'm out. And it's really insightful. And I think you mentioned about stillness is the key, Nate. That's on there as well. So at some point I'm going to read that. But I was just out in the garden this weekend. On Sunday, and the weather was quite nice, and I think I did both the eighth habit and simplicity parenting. It was great.
Cool.
I did link to all those your recommendations last week, JB, on the Blink list. And in fact, all the recommendations, I put a link into them. So I might check this Blink list thing out, because it sounds like it's something that I might be able to swallow.
Well, I will just say that I thought I had the basic subscription, and then I looked and I've got the premium, but I don't think I've ever paid for it.
Oh. So maybe you got it on a deal somehow.
Maybe I did. I mean, this is the story of my life. Things just seem to happen, and then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, I've got a new streaming service.
Okay, 3 more. So my one, we watched Shape of Water last night, which I hadn't seen before. It was very good. JB, I know you're going to watch it. Ben, have you seen it?
No, but is this the Guillermo
you're
del
frozen.
Toro fish sex one?
Sure. Yeah. That's
it is,
one way of
isn't it?
describing it.
Guillermo del Toro, fish monster man and mute person has some sort of relationship form between them. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, more or less. Yes. It's like a stage show. It's like a filmed stage show. It's quite good.
Am I going to like it?
Yeah, I think you will.
I want to like it.
It's not for kids.
Okay.
I feel like Nathan, your review of it's quite good is grudgingly offered.
No, I don't think so. I think that it's like a stage show. So it's sort of, it looks like a stage show in terms of the way it's shot, because everything's onto one panel and it moves around like that, and the lighting everything's lit and coloured in sort of greens or reds, and there's dance scenes, and no, it's very good. It's worthy of the Oscar it won. Absolutely.
4 Oscars: Best Picture, Best Original Music Score, Best Production Design, and Best Director. 4.
So Ben, you're next then.
Am I? What are we talking about now?
Tiger King.
Tiger King. Oh my gosh. So I said a fortnight ago, okay, I want to watch this Tiger King. Everyone's talking about it. There's memes all over the internet. I've got to watch it because I want to understand what's going on. I now understand what's going on. I've seen all of Tiger King, all 7 episodes. There's no way to describe it other than the fact that it's nowhere near what you think it's going to be. You think it might just start out as a documentary about some guy who lives down in the South in America, and he's got a bunch of tigers living in cages in a zoo. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So from the outside, from the title, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. Oh my God, it's so much more. It's so much more. This guy has got enemies everywhere. There are more big cats in cages in America than there are in the wilds of Africa and Asia and all this sort of thing. It is just unbelievable. You've got to watch it. To understand it, you've got to watch it.
Becca has watched all of it. She watched it over the Easter periods. I just don't know if it's for me.
That's fine. What did Becca think of it?
Yeah, she thought it's the same as you. Like, it was like she hates him, but
that's the Tiger King, Joe Exotic. Yeah.
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 Is that his real name, by the way?
No, his name is Joseph something, but he goes by Joe Exotic or
Nice.
Tiger King.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's well worth watching. It really is.
And so the last one is mine. We just finished watching, literally just before we started recording the podcast, the first season of Barry. Everyone has to watch Barry. It's great. It's great. It's brilliant TV. It's gripping and laugh out loud funny, and there are very sad bits in it, and very dramatic bits in it. What is Barry, you're asking?
It's Bill Hader,
What's
isn't it?
Barry?
Bill Hader.
Barry is a show starring Bill Hader, who is also writing and producing. It's an HBO show. It's an 8-episode run, about half an hour per episode. Barry is a hitman who kills people for money, and decides that he wants to take up acting for one reason or other. And then those worlds are they collide in certain ways. And you can imagine, being a hitman, you have to have a low profile. Being an actor is about getting your face out in front of people. So they may be opposed. It's really good. It's really, really good. I know I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, but I don't want to spoil it. Everyone should go and see this show. It's very funny and very dark. There are some.
It's on my list of things to watch. How many seasons have there been?
2.
Okay, well that's not too much to catch up on.
There's some really good action scenes in it as well. There was one point where I turned to Becca and said, just like, this is really well made. This is just really well made. It's just really slick, and it looks good, and it's lit well, and it's really well made. And it's got Henry Winkler in it. It's got the Fonz in it, being this slime ball type. He's an actor. He's an acting teacher, and he's kind of really he's really cringe. But yeah, it's good. It's really good.
Cool.
Barry, I will check it out. Yeah, I'll check it out.
So should we move on to the topic for today?
Should we?
Yeah, I think we should.
There's a war coming, Ned. I don't know when, I don't know who we'll be fighting, but it's coming.
Okay, let me put this in here. Spoilers for Game of Thrones. If you haven't seen Game of Thrones,
why are you
listening to
listening to podcasts about Game of Thrones if you haven't?
I'm going to edit that.
Yeah, that's right.
Ben, take us through what we're going to be talking about today.
So we are going to do a Game of Thrones retrospective, not a full rewind and review because that will take 8 years. But basically, it's just us talking about 8 seasons of a show that for probably 5 seasons we absolutely loved, and for after that 2 seasons we kind of enjoyed, and for a season we thought some bits of it were good, but hey, nothing's perfect in this world. So it's just us focusing on the good parts of the show, trying to focus on any negatives. We know that when it passed the books, it kind of lost something. However, it was always from episode 1 onwards. I remember, Nathan, seeing a post from you on a social media platform that I don't think you're on anymore, where you said, "Oh my God, everyone, it's amazing, And I was like, what's got? Game of Thrones. I'll tell you about it tomorrow at work. And then you basically spent about an hour talking to me at work the next day about what it was, why I should try it, why I'd love it. And it went from there. I remember actually being off of work. I'd had a small operation and I was signed off work for 2 weeks. And this was the first incarnation of Nate Plus. I was given access to the show, season 1, by my good friend. And I watched all of it in about a day. The whole season. Fantastic. Anyway, so we're going to break it down into different sections. So we've got top 3 characters you loved or hated. So you could have 2 that you like, and 1 you hate, or 3 that you hate, or 3 that you love. It's totally up to you. We're going to do top 3 either battle or action or sword fight scenes and why you like them. Then we're going to do, scrolling down here, top 3 episodes and why. So it can be because it left you devastated or destroyed at the show's brutality, or it was so good because of some sort of payoff. And that's it. That's what we're going to talk about.
Okay.
So there you go.
Sounds good.
Who wants to start? I'm going to go with Nathan.
Okay.
Top 3 characters you loved or hated and why.
my three are people that I loved, and I can do it fairly briefly, I think. But the first one is Stannis Baratheon. I love Stannis. I really, really love Stannis. I was Team Stannis
Controversial.
for so many years. I was Team Stannis all the way. I remember reading the books thinking, well, he's the rightful king. Well, he's the rightful king. I mean, like he's the next in line, so
He should get it.
yeah. And I remember thinking that I was swept up in the Lord of Light stuff. I never really thought he was the Lord of Light with the flaming sword and stuff, but I like how he's practical and hardy and stoic, and really he has a real determination about him. And I liked the next one as well is Davos. Davos is the only nice person in the show. He's the only nice person in the whole show. Everyone else is a horrible killing machine.
Really? The only nice person? What about the Maester at Winterfell in season 1 and 2?
Fair enough. Okay, yeah. But main character that you follow, Davos is the heart of the show. So Davos and Stannis together. I will say, from season 2 onwards, which is when Stannis was first introduced, much like the books, I actually thought they'd got the casting wrong. I thought that the actor playing Davos should have been playing Stannis, and the actor playing Stannis should have played Davos. And that's the way I saw them in the books when I read them. They obviously won me over, and I think they're both great in the roles that they're in. But I thought of Stannis as a more sort of barrel-chested, bigger man, and that's what I think of Davos like. And whereas Stannis in the show is he's not gaunt, but he's thin and lithe, isn't he? You know, James, you're going to say something.
Well, do you still love him after he kills his daughter?
That is the point where it breaks. Yeah, that's the bit where you go.
Because I mean, you know, I will agree with some of the things you said about him, but then like he just goes a little bit mental. I think he just loses the plot, and he's completely. It feels like he's been completely hypnotized by Melisandre. Is that right?
Melisandre. I don't know if he's been hypnotized.
I wouldn't mind being hypnotized.
I think that he's just gone so far down the path of that if he turned back now, it would mean that everything he'd done was wrong.
Ego.
His ego.
Is that what you're
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
His ego was his enemy. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the problem. And I think other than that, I think that he had a rightful claim to the throne. I think he fought well. I think I didn't, when he's defeated by Tyrion, it's like, oh, yeah, you go for, yay Tyrion. But at the same time, it's like, if only he'd got into King's Landing, he probably would have made everything okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I just want to say very quickly, I agree that Stannis was a likable character, even though he was sort of the worst up until he killed his daughter, Shireen, who was amazing. And yes, he did have the better claim on the throne over Renly, if you consider Robert Baratheon a legitimate king. Well,
that's the thing. I do, because it's a good, it's a really interesting parallel to the British monarchy, in that there's not a straight line. There's not an unbroken line all the way along. There are people who have overthrown other people, and it's like, well, he's the king now.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's just how it works. Yeah.
And so I'll let me quickly sum up with my third one is the Hound, and I'm sure that that's going to be dipped into a lot more by you guys, but I just think he's a great redemption story, and everyone loves Wolverine. He's Wolverine. He's horrible. He's nasty. He's a killer, but he redeems himself, and he's. I wonder how the books will go. I do. Because he does love Sansa. But we lost that in the show, and that's fine, because that wasn't. It didn't feel like it was needed for Sansa's story and stuff. But yeah, the Hound is a great character, and really you really love to hate him and hate to love him, and all of that. He's
I really like the Wolverine reference that you
Yeah,
or
me
the
too.
comparison, Nate. That's really good because he is the best at what he does, but what he does is not very nice. And that is
Absolutely.
absolutely bang on. That's really good. Well done.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, good
Thanks.
3. I like that. That's a good 3. James, what are your 3?
Well, so I also had the Hound, and I completely agree with everything that Nate said, which makes me feel weird, but it's
Yeah,
fine.
icky, right? Yeah, I
Um,
do actually feel
but
icky as well, James. Don't do it
but
again, please.
you mentioned about his love for Sansa, but I also loved his relationship with Arya as well, and how that changed and grew. And I just, and that's the reason why I've been a little bit naughty, because you said I could have 3, but in fact I've got 4 because I couldn't choose. I loved both Sansa and Arya because I think they had, in my view, and this is only based on the TV show because I haven't read the books, the biggest journeys from coming. They are sort of, the Stark family are up in the north doing their own thing, and they've got a really good thing that's going on, and then all of a sudden it goes a bit tits up. They all split up, and they spoilers see their father beheaded, and then all hell breaks loose for them, and they both go on such separate journeys, and they then come back at the end of the show, or towards the end of the show, and they've got this, they're not the same little girls that they were, and they've got this respect for each other. And yeah, I just find their journeys brilliant in the show. Nate?
I think that's really insightful, James. The first chapter that George R. Martin wrote in the books was where the group of people, so Ned Stark and his people, are coming back from having beheaded the deserter from the wall, and they find the wolves, and there's one wolf per child. So that was the first chapter he wrote. That was his first thing. And what's key there is that the story of Game of Thrones is about the children of the Starks and their
Yes.
journey.
Mm-hmm.
And so you've nailed it, right on the head there. Hit the nail right on the head, in that their journey is us. We're following them, and they've had the biggest journey to go. Yeah, so it's really interesting point.
Yeah, we go through what they go through when they lose their parents. We lose them as well, because we're seeing everything through their eyes. Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah,
very good.
And so my final person that I hated, and in the menu I've just gone twat, is Joffrey Baratheon. My God, I tell you what, I do take my hat off to the actor Jack Gleeson for playing this role, because I mean, wow. I mean, maybe it's just every lad's dream to just play a prick. It was, I don't know, I just hated him.
Apparently, he's one of the nicest gentlemen you will ever meet in the world.
Jack is, and I am definitely separating out between actor and character. But what I will say is that I think that the actor has also made the character.
He's given up acting. Do you know that?
Has he?
Yeah, he's gone to college. He's gone to university, and he's not acting anymore. Or he's not acting now. He may in the future.
I would find it so difficult if he was at my university just to roll out like certain lines from Game of Thrones or something like this. I don't know. Every time he walked into the room, or I don't know, whatever. But anyway, just what a prick. I think he. You'll probably disagree, but I can't think of. I suppose maybe not Theon, but Ramsay Bolton. He's a prick as well. So it's a toss up between those two. I just think they're really nasty pieces of work. But Joffrey tipped the scales for me.
I can see why you choose Joffrey over Ramsay. Oh, sorry, Nate. Go
on. I was incorrect. I was just checking. Apparently, in March this year, so just last month, it's been announced that he is returning to acting. So he's obviously finished his studies and is now coming back.
Cool.
Oh, fair play.
Yeah, I agree with the Ramsay Bolton thing. Like, Ramsay's he's just nasty. You don't even like him. You don't even like to hate him. Whereas Joffrey, you kind of like. He was you could boo him from the stage. He's such a pantomime villain.
Yeah,
he is.
he's a typical child of neglectful parents, basically, or parents that spoil him. So his dad sort of just neglected him, didn't really care because he wasn't a
Dad.
prostitute he could, yes, dad, as in Robert Baratheon. He wasn't a prostitute he could have sex with, or a cup of wine he could drink, or food he could eat. He was just an annoyance, so get him out of the way. And then his mother just gave him everything, spoilt him completely. Therefore, when he was destined to become the king, he didn't know how to handle it because he always had what he wanted. He never had to work for anything.
James.
I kind of slightly, I slightly disagree with what Ben says there, because I think he all of a sudden realizes the power he's had, and then the mother realizes that, hang on a minute, I have brought up a little prick, and because he's the king and everything else like that, I'm sure there are a couple of scenes where she's like, well, I'm your mother, and he's like, well, I'm king. Take a step back.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, on that note, I will say I'll go on to my characters now. Shall I?
Well, let me just one thing before you do that.
Go on then.
You know, he's saying he's twisted by the power. I was always wondering if there was something about the incest and whether it made him a creature was produced that had some sort of problems because of
think
that.
so.
Well, that was
Yeah,
a suggestion.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was
Anyway, so
unstable because he was born of incest. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
because the gene pool was mixed and it probably shouldn't have been. But yeah, I get it. So anyway, so on that note, talking about the gene pool, characters that I love. Number one, Tywin Lannister. I absolutely love Tywin Lannister, and I know you're not supposed to love him, but I do.
I think you are. I think his introductions where he's skinning that deer is pretty awesome.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, skinning the deer, which happens to be the sigil of House Baratheon, and he's skinning it. Yeah,
He actually did it. Charles Dance actually did it.
yes,
That's really doing it.
Yeah.
Wow.
The man is driven. He wants his family to be at the top. He wants them to create a dynasty longer than the Targaryens one. He's sullen. He's strict. Doesn't mince his words. Some of the dialogue he has lifted straight out of the book, of course, but some of the dialogue he has with Jaime and with Tyrion in particular, are just it's just absolutely incredible. Like put downs that would make you absolutely shrivel into yourself, and he just delivers them. Charles Dance delivers them with so much venom. Tywin Lannister is an incredible character, but he's another parent who has to die for his children to go on a journey. All right, the journey they go on might not be a nice one, but they go on a journey, and Tywin Lannister is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I think the show lost it a little bit as well when he was, again, spoilers. I think when Tywin was killed by Tyrion, the show never really recovered and replaced him as a character with as much depth. I think possibly Stannis did to a degree, but no one. And maybe the what's she called, the Queen of Thorns, Elena Martell, not Martell, Elena from Highgarden. What's her name? Oh
Tyrell.
My God, Tyrell, not Martell. Tyrell. Thank you, Nathan. She was good at delivering a cutting line as well, but no one was Tywin Lannister for me.
Fair enough.
Next one, Eddard Stark. Come on, dear sweet, honourable Ned Stark.
His legacy goes throughout all the seasons, and he's only in one of them.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the guy is the most honourable man in the Seven Kingdoms. But then when you see sort of later on in the show, when Bran has his green dreams and he sort of goes back in time to see the sword fight outside of the tower of Love and Joy, or whatever it's called, where you see maybe Ned Stark wasn't always honourable because he killed an unarmed man in combat. I absolutely love the way Eddard Stark is portrayed. I think if you watch the show for the first time and you don't see that his days are numbered, there's something wrong with you, because his days are obviously numbered from episode 1. The simple fact that a stag, like Nate, what you said, the first book, the first chapter into the book is a stag found next to a dead direwolf with loads of direwolf pups. The stag killed the direwolf. So the second that Eddard Stark agreed to go to King's Landing to be the Hand of the King, he was gone. He was dead. There was no coming back from that. So I just love his character. I love the way he's portrayed. I think Sean Bean. You
got a speech impediment?
I do have a speech impediment. I think Sean Bean is portrays him fantastically well. He's a really well-written character who couldn't last more than one season, because otherwise, what would the show have been about? What would the show have been about? And finally, oh God, Nate, what were you going to say?
No, Karen, please.
Okay, I was just going to say, and finally, my third favorite character is Lord Varys, the Spider, the Master of Whisperers. He's just brilliant. He's brilliant. Again, his character is just so great. All he cares about, he isn't driven by lust. He isn't driven by anything other than seeing the right person in charge for the realm to prosper. He doesn't want the realm to bleed, as he says. He will do whatever he has to do to eliminate threats to the throne. He's a fantastic character, brilliant character, different in the show from in the books.
Yes, very much so.
And possibly in the books, and the show sort of alluded to it in the first season, possibly sort of on the side of Master Illyrio and wants to bring a Targaryen back to rule. Maybe not sort of that in the show, but I don't know. The show and the books are different beasts, and I think he's a fantastically interesting character, and I love every scene he's in, because there's always more going on than what's being said, and I love that. Absolutely love it.
So Ben, what's our next section?
So our next section is top 3 battle or action or sword fight scenes. So this can encompass anything across the 8 seasons of the show where a battle occurred or there was some sort of action scene. So it could be a chase, or it could be running away from someone or running after someone, or it could be an epic like battle scene, for example, the Battle of Blackwater, or it could just be 2 people fighting with swords or axes or knives or what have you. So it's just your favorite 3 of those scenes. Now,
okay.
I'm fairly confident that we've all done our homework here, and we're going to start this time, because we started with Nathan in the last section. We're going to start this time with JB. Go ahead, JB.
Okay, so not in any particular order, so that there isn't a 1, 2, 3 here. I just like these, okay? But the first one that I've picked is from season 4, and I believe in all of the Game of Thrones shocking scenes that this is the most shocking.
Agree. I still can't watch it.
Okay, so this is the fight between the Mountain and the Viper, all right? And we are all about the Viper. We are telling ourselves this dude is gonna win, but we're a little bit nervous about it, all right? Because the Mountain is massive, but Viper's nice and agile. He can just move around. He's a ducker and diver and all that sort of stuff. And he's fighting, and he is winning, and he is having a great time. He's having a great time. He takes it to having too much of a good time and takes his eye off his ego gets in the way. He thinks he's done enough, and he hasn't. And guess what happens? Oh my God! His head gets crushed. His head gets crushed.
Like a tomato. It's awful.
Oh my goodness! It's almost as shocking, I think. Oh, it's a lot worse as when RoboCop, as in Murphy, gets his hand blown off, and you see that in slow-mo in the director's cut. Yeah. The guy is screaming, and you see blood coming out of his eyes and his ears, and then all of you just get this crunch. It's almost like someone's just cracked open an Easter egg.
Oh, perfect. It's making me feel ill now.
God, it's actually I think a bit of vomit come in my mouth.
Yeah, it's a great moment. It's great TV. It's so expertly delivered, but it's so horrible. Like when he pushes his thumbs to his eyes, like Yeah, I'm not. You know me. I'm squeamish. I don't like it. I don't like it.
So do you don't like it as in it's not a good fight, or you don't like it because it's just pretty horrific?
Oh, it's terrific. I think it's excellently done. Like the whole
Okay.
fight is fantastic. It's an amazing scene. Like the whole thing's building to it. I remember having read it and thinking, I want to see this. I can't imagine how they're going to do it. And then, yeah, just I think they're both also cast so well. I mean, finally they got Gregor Clegane cast properly. They only cast him 3 times for crying out loud. But yeah, I think that the two of them just nail it. Ben, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I actually had this picked as one of my favourite fights as well. Everything you guys have said is absolutely hitting the nail on the head. It's exciting. You want to see it. You don't know how good Oberyn Martell is. He's all flamboyant, and he's very quick because he stabs a Lannister in the hand in the brothel when you first meet him. But you don't know how he's going to compare against the Mountain. And he's an incredibly agile fighter. He's deadly with a spear. He poisons all of his spears, as most of the Martells do. So if he puts one cut on you, you're dead, which is kind of a dirty sort of, not a very honorable thing to do, as the rest of the Seven Kingdoms would say. But the Martells don't care. So, and also he knows, or he's highly suspicious that the Mountain was ordered to kill his sister Elia Martell by Tywin Lannister. So there's all this, just like I talked about with Varys. There's all this. If you just know the show and you just sort of you pay sort of very basic attention to the show, you might miss all this other stuff happening behind the fight. So it's not just to save Tyrion from being executed for regicide of Joffrey, the little twat as we called him. But it's also he wants justice for his sister who was killed in the sacking of King's Landing at the end of Robert's Rebellion. So there's so much going on, and he's so close. He's so close. And then, like you said, JB, he just takes his eye off the prize at the wrong minute. The Mountain, who is, I think, for all intents and purposes, the strongest man in the Seven Kingdoms, or the strongest warrior that we know of, gets his teeth. I actually think it's almost worse when he gets his teeth smashed out. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a punch first, and all of his teeth go flying, and his paramour, I forget her name right now, but she's like, oh my god. And then he's on top of him, and he puts his thumbs in his eyes, and Oberyn is screaming. He's not just going, oh, this hurts, oh my god. He is absolutely screaming his head off, and then the pop, the burst, and his head is exploded. And the 1 second shot that it lingers on when the Mountain rolls off of being on top of him is too long. It's just too long. You see too much, and it's so, oh my god, it's the most incredible fight that Game of Thrones did. Nathan.
Well, I was going to say, on your point about the stuff going on in the background, it's also the first time, if I remember correctly, it's the first time you really sort of think of him as truly honourable and in a positive light. Before that, he's kind of been a bit grey, because he's kind of like, I don't care about this, or I don't care about that, or I don't care about these people, I'm not sure about that. Like, really just very nonchalant about everything. But then the fight comes along, and he's like, I'm doing this for honour.
Yeah.
Like,
and he's so good. He's so good.
So it's just such a shame. Great shout, JB.
Thank you very much.
Well done, JB.
I'm not going again now, or we jump into somebody else?
Okay, well, I did mine as well, which is the same as yours, JB.
Oh, so did you? I didn't realise. Oh, brother, I didn't know you had that one. I wondered why you were talking about. Do you know what? I was like, why is he talking about mine so much? I did that.
Well, I'll do one, shall I?
Yeah, you go ahead.
So for me, it's when I'm not sure the episode. I forget. Sorry, but it's when Daenerys burns the slavers. It's the first moment where you get Daenerys being an ultimate badass. I mean, I know in the first season she goes on the pyre and burns the eggs and then comes out unscathed. But this is the time where she turns around and goes, "No, I'm having that army, and you're gonna die, and those dragons stay with me no matter what." And it's epic. It is a coming of age. She has about 20 coming of ages, but it's like when she says Dracarys, it's like it's putting like the hairs on the back of my neck standing up now, just thinking about her
Really?
standing there. You know, because it's the Iron Man walking away from the exploding tank. It's the
Yeah.
mic drop. You know, she literally turns, the camera pans with her. She goes Dracarys, and it's just like fire flaming from above. It's just it's fantastic TV because you root for her all the way because she's so downtrodden constantly by everyone around her. I think it's almost a shame that after this things go wrong because I think things do go wrong after this. But that scene when she's like, I need an army, yes, I'll give up a dragon, and we're all just like, no, surely not. That's literally her child. That's her child. No way is she gonna do that. And you're all trying to think like, how is she gonna do this? And it's like, oh no, she speaks their language. She knows exactly what's going on. She's already trained a dragon. She knows everything that's going to happen. She has planned this whole thing out, and then she wanders out of there with an army and her dragons and her people, and all the people are dead. Great episode.
Yeah, awesome. Agree.
I agree as well. At the beginning of that, because that scene where she burns all the Slavers' fleet in Slavers Bay, that scene begins with, it looks like they're going to give up and they're going to leave Marine because it looks like they're parlaying with
that one. This is way before that. This is when she first gets the Unsullied.
Oh, I do beg your pardon. Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, fine. Yeah, when she burns all the masters, yeah. Krasnis being the one who's been insulting her in a language that she understands all the way through.
Yeah.
I
knew that,
I
Ben.
do apologise. Sorry. Yeah. That's fantastic. No, that is a
JB,
great shout.
Sorry, Ben, I didn't interrupt you. JB, what's your next one?
So my next one is I've gone for the Battle of the Bastards, season 6, episode 9. All right, so we've set the scene. We've got John. We've got that another prick on the other side, Bolton. He's been nasty. He's been taunting everybody. All right. And then it's just beginning to kick off. And it honestly, for me, it's just beautiful. I mean, I've written here that it could be one of the best battle scenes I think I've ever seen. I think. All right. I need to think about a few other ones, but it just with the whole story and everything behind it. I think you've just got, there's no, in the Game of Thrones, you've got all your like fantasy characters, but there ain't no fantasy characters here. It's just man on man, human on human, just going for it. All right. And then you get that scene where John is over-egged. His ego has got a better of him, another ego. Okay. And he's in the center of this mosh pit and he looks up and you're just like, mate, I think it's game over for you, bruv. I don't want it to be, but I think it is. And then all of a sudden, out comes the cavalry.
Yeah, literally.
Literally.
Yeah. The Knights of the Vale show up. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it wasn't for Sansa, I think he would have been in big trouble. But then you've then also got that emotional bit where Ramsay I've forgotten his name. Rickon. Is it Rickon? Yeah.
Rickon. Yeah.
Rickon.
It's like, off you go, mate, and gets this big bow and arrow, and you're just like, no, he's not going to do it. He'll never hit him. And he fucking hits him, excuse me. It's actually, thinking about it brings a little bit of emotion to me about this. So, yeah, I think that battle scene is mental. Absolutely mental.
Yeah, I agree. I completely and utterly agree. I've actually got this episode picked out for the next section, so I won't go into it too much now. That's okay. That's fine. Don't worry about it. No, that's okay. But no, I mean it's absolutely fantastic. I mean it plays out. It almost plays out like a microcosm of the actual show itself, because you've got Ramsay being sadistic. You've got the deception that he pulls into it, and the threats of life against the Starks and the parley even before the battle begins the day before.
Mm-hmm.
The battle itself is extremely brutal and sadistic. The cinematography is sweeping and beautiful. John standing up after being knocked off of his horse by arrow fire and seeing an absolute cavalry charging towards him, the Bolton army charging at him, and he just takes off his sword belt, takes his sword out, and he's waiting for it, and he knows that he's about to die, or he suspects he's about to die, only for then the Stark cavalry to arrive just in time. I don't quite know how they did it, but hey, they did. Yeah, and so you've got all of that, and then everything you've talked about, JB. You know, the phalanx that comes in, and how it's possible that Ramsay Bolton is a better battle commander than Jon Snow is. Jon Snow is probably a better fighter, but as the actual battle plan that Ramsay Bolton had was perfect.
Well,
absolutely perfect, and he would have won.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think so. Me saying I think John let his emotions get the better of him. I think his ego was inflated and he thought he could take on the world. But actually, Ramsay is a much better at strategy than he was. John was just like very gun ho. All the emotions were there for him, and he wasn't thinking straight. And again, this is where I liked at the start when we talked about our characters. Sansa has gone from where she was and has now got all of this knowledge. And I think, to a point, Littlefinger has helped her on that journey.
Oh, no, a lot. I think a lot.
Sorry, but he's a slimy prick as well.
Yeah.
But without that, and John would have been, one of our heroes would have been gone.
Yeah, and I think Sansa basically what I think you're saying is Sansa has mastered her emotions, whereas Jon is not at that point.
Definitely.
She can step aside and go.
She knows the political game. She knows the political game. She's thinking with her mind, not with her heart.
And also, Sansa knows Ramsay. She knows that he can't be trusted. She knows it won't be straightforward. She knows that he's going to have something up his sleeve, and she's right. The one thing that I will say is that the Stark words are "Winter is coming." Their sigil is the direwolf, and they say when the cold winters blow, the lone wolf dies, but the pack survives. So the second Jon is not the only Stark on that battlefield because Rickon's died, but Sansa shows up, the pack survives.
It's great.
Fantastic. Great. Absolutely fantastic. Brilliant.
What's your second best moment?
Just trying to think. Where is it? Here we go. Sorry, JB's written so much I keep losing it. Right, so I've done that one. Okay, so the first time you ever see what I want to call a proper sword fight in season 1, it's Ned Stark versus Jaime Lannister. That sword fight, whilst it lasts probably 45 seconds to a minute, the threat is intense. The Lannister soldiers turn up just after Jaime finds out that Tyrion has been taken hostage by Catelyn Stark. Ned, without missing a beat, sort of claims, "Oh yeah, I did it. It was me." It wasn't him. It was his wife completely. It was his wife. His wife took Tyrion hostage. He had no plan in it at all. But he says, "No, it was me." The Lannisters go crazy. They kill absolutely everyone, including the Master at Arms' son, whose name escapes me right now, but Jaime sticks a blade through his head.
Yeah. Ben.
I know.
Roderick Cassell is someone. It's his son.
Jory.
There you go.
Jory. There you go. Yeah, he goes at Jaime. You're like, "No, don't do it. Don't do it." He goes at Jaime, and Jaime sticks a sword. A knife, a dagger straight through his head. Yeah, it's terrible. And then in the first episode, Jaime Lannister says to Ned Stark, "Why do we never see you fighting at a tournament?" And Ned says to Jaime, "When I fight a man, I don't want him to know what I can do." Yeah. And Jaime's like, "Oh, well said." And Jaime doesn't know what Ned can do. I think Jaime thinks this is going to be quite an easy fight for him because Ned's a bit older, and he's friends with Robert, and he thinks, this guy's 20 years past his best. I'm just going to wipe him out. And he doesn't. Ned holds his own.
Well, Ned held his own against Arthur Dane.
Don't go any further. Yes,
Okay.
Ned holds his own, and he gives Jamie an incredible fight. And the music that plays during that fight is absolutely wonderful, and it just builds and builds and builds. And as the fight is getting more and more intense, and the music's building, you're just like, oh my god! I remember being on the edge of my seat, laid up at home, not really able to move, but I was moving to the edge of my seat because I just didn't know what was going to happen. And then, of course, he gets stabbed through the back of the leg, Ned Stark, and that's the end of it. And Jamie doesn't kill him because it wouldn't have been clean.
He kills the guy
Oh!
doesn't he kill the guy that stabbed him?
He hits him with his pommel of his sword.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right.
knocks him
Yeah,
out. Yeah.
Was Jamie? I
Um,
can't remember. Sorry, Nate,
no,
carry
go
on. No, I
was
can't
gonna say-
remember. I mean, it was good, and you know what my memory's like. But was Jamie actually getting the upper hand at that point, or was it just equal? It was,
They'd gone back and forth. No one really had the upper hand. They'd just been in like I don't know, Nate, you did sword fighting. What is it when your swords are drawn and you're sort of pushing against each other? What is that?
It's the old swords drawn pushing against each other's trick. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that's the one. Anyway, basically, they come back from that, and it's like they're setting to go again. And just as Ned comes back and he's sort of getting set to go again, a guard stabs him through the back of the leg. And you could say that the guard stabs him because he thinks, oh, hang on, Jamie might not win this. I better get involved here.
Can I just pick
Absolutely
up on a
loved it.
point? Did Nate used to sword fight?
Yeah, I used to sword fight. Yeah, I studied medieval longsword.
Oh my!
That's an actual fact. I studied 17th century Italian sword fighting, bastard sword and single-handed
So
sword.
what? You were like? Do you mean sword fighting or fencing?
No, sword fighting. We used it was a bastard sword. It was a hand and a half sword that I used. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
A bastard sword is the same sword that Jon Snow has in Game of Thrones.
Nice.
It's basically, it's not quite a broadsword, so you can hold it with two hands, but it is just light enough that you can hold it with one hand.
Did you cause any damage with it?
No. I went to a tournament, but didn't win anything. But yeah,
Did you?
I have two swords. You generally need to have two swords. I have a
you-
single-handed and a bastard sword.
Did people get cut in this?
No,
Competition?
because when you fight in a tournament, you have like a nylon one, which is it's like plastic, but it's got like a metal rod through the center of it, and so it's weighted like a sword, but it
Right.
looks more like a nylon one. Ben?
Okay.
I was just going to say, James, the way you asked that question just then, did you cut anyone with anything like that? You sounded just like Danny Butterman in in Hot Fuzz. Did you cook any fools? Yeah, that's the same job.
I don't think I've known this.
Cook any fools?
I would have absolutely. I'm going to probably ridicule you for a little bit longer about this.
No, there's no ridiculing, because if you gave me a sword, I could take you out. I'm not a great
don't
sword
think-
fighter, but I know how to use
you
one.
can, mate. I'm like flipping a ninja with a sword. I've got two swords,
Okay.
and I can make them sound like I've got lightsabers. Like I would kick your ass in a sword
Okay.
fight. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. Sure, fine.
Let's see
good.
let's see what you do. All right, let's see what you got. When this isolation's over, we're gonna have a live podcast and a sword fight, and I will
Okay.
beat the shit out of you.
Okay,
I'll be like
cool.
Oberon, flip you
Okay.
mountain.
Can
Nathan,
I make my
Nathan.
point now?
Yes, make your point.
Sorry.
I've been to the courtyard where that fight happened.
Oh, yes, it's in
Malta.
Malta. There you go.
Yeah.
That's
It's in Undina. It's a city called Undina, which is basically where King's Landing, all of King's Landing season 1 was filmed.
There you go.
And it's a beautiful place. I recommend everyone go to Malta when you get the chance, when the lockdown ends. And we went on a Game of Thrones tour. We went to lots of different places that they filmed in season 1. It's very, very good.
Good place for a sword fight.
Yeah.
Nathan, what's your second one?
Tyrion murdering Shay and Tywin.
Oh, yes.
It's what I like about it, and it's going to link to my third one, which I'll get to after you guys have done yours. But what I like about it is that it's not an action scene. That it's all tension, all drama, all dialogue, and the release of it all with that bolt at the end from the crossbow. That's the release. Like, it builds from the moment he's released. Jamie releases him from the prison. Or does Varys release him and then he finds Jamie in the tunnels? Or
I think Varys might release him. And no.
Yeah.
Jamie releases him, and then he goes. He's supposed to go and meet Varys, but then he takes a detour. Yeah.
And again, going back to the book, in the books, I remember reading it, and I remember my jaw absolutely dropping when reading the books. Just like, holy God, he just killed Tywin. And it's It may not be word for word, but it felt like it was. It felt like how I completely pictured it. How that rage that Tyrion has, but it's contained rage. Like he's absolutely exploding. The killing Shay, like strangling her, and then the conversation with Tywin, and it's just that conversation that everyone wants to have with Tywin. Like, you're just a fucking piece of work, and you treated Tyrion like nothing. And everyone wants him to pull the trigger, and when he does, it's just this release. Like, and I know he like empties his bowels. Like in the book, he talks about how the stink of his bowels emptying, and like it's just fantastic. It's fantastic TV because of the drama of it.
I remember watching this, and I genuinely thought, I don't know whether he's got the minerals to do it. I thought he would just kind of walk away, but he was obviously thinking that I can't walk away from this because he's going to kill me if I don't kill him. Now I've made that I've crossed the line. I've got to go through with it now.
Great moment.
It is fantastic moment. Yeah, very good. Good shout.
JB, what's your third one?
So my third and final one is the Battle Beyond the Wall. Okay, so this is where we finally get a dragon White Walker face-off, and it was good, but my God, did you expect what was well, because I didn't read the books, I wasn't expecting to happen what happened. All right,
Not in the books.
This is way beyond the books at this point.
Sorry, mate.
Yeah,
I'm being
way
stupid,
beyond the books.
aren't I? But I was just like, no. Again, these. I don't know whether it's just maybe every battle scene in Game of Thrones is kind of like, no. But this didn't have such the shock factor as my first battle. But it's pretty tragic. Night King kills a dragon, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's got one. He's got his own dragon now.
Yeah, the moment when you're like, I think I remember saying out loud, he's going to resurrect that. Oh my God, he's going to resurrect that. No, he's not. Oh, he did it.
Yeah. So this is when the search party of heroes go beyond the wall to get a
walker.
To get a white, basically. That's what they're called.
Yeah.
They're called the whites. Get a white, bring it back to King's Landing to explain to Cersei, look, this is a real threat. We've all got to come together.
Isn't it? It's evidence, because no one doesn't, and no one believes them that there are these walkers. And oh man, could you do it? I don't think I could go and chase after these walkers. I couldn't do it.
No.
Well, actually, I could, because I'm such a good sword fighter. But I easily take it down, you know. But anyway, I exactly as you've put it, Nate. The fact like is this really gonna? Is he gonna? He is. And then the dragon opens its eyes and it's blue and you're just like, uh-oh, this is a game changer. This is a game changer.
Yeah.
Yes. When you hear the not in that episode, but the next episode, when you hear the resurrected dragon sort of making its dragon cry as it's flying towards the wall, and it's the way it sounds, it doesn't sound right, does it? It sounds otherworldly. It sounds, because you've been hearing dragons for 7 seasons and how they apparently sound in this world, and this one just sounds,
shrieks, like
it's fantastic. When its eyes, like you said, James, when its eyes open and they're blue, I just remember thinking, wait, I was agog. I was sat there, jaw dropped open, and I was like, oh my God, what are they going to do? Yeah, fantastic. Good shout. Very good shout.
Ben, what's your third one?
So, as I asked you not to talk too much about it, the battle at the Tower of Joy in season 6. So this is when, so this takes place in the past, and it's right at the end of Robert's Rebellion, or the War of the Usurper, whatever you want to call him, depending on whose side of the coin you land on. Robert's Rebellion. So at the end of Robert's Rebellion, after the victory on the Trident, where Robert Baratheon killed Rhaegar Targaryen, crushing his breastplate and killing him outright, and after the sacking of King's Landing, Ned Stark went further south, to find his sister, who had been kidnapped by Rhaegar Targaryen. He found her in the Tower of Joy in Dawn. She was protected by 2 Kingsguard, one of which being the finest swordsman who ever picked up a sword, Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning, who carried the sword. Oh God, I forgot what it's called. It's made of a fallen star. Dawn. That's what it's called.
Should say, Arthur Dane is mentioned regularly in the books, like as being this legend, this absolute, just no one is ever better than him. No one has ever been better. No one ever will be better.
Yes. He was the most honourable member of the Kingsguard. He wasn't the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, but I think he was like second in command. He was trusted with this task by Rhaegar to be guarding Lyanna Stark at the Tower of Joy. So Ned shows up with Mira and Jojen Reed's father, Howland Reed, and several other northern colleagues, and they battle basically. And it doesn't last exceptionally long, but the battle is brutal, and every single person on the northern side, apart from Ned Stark and Howland Reed, is murdered, killed. One Kingsguard is killed relatively quickly. I think it's the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard, whose name I forget. It might be Bull. That might be his nickname, but I forget. Nate, you'll look it up for me, I'm sure.
Maybe.
And then Sir Arthur Dane holds off 4 people with 2 swords. And it ends up with Sir Arthur Dane versus Ned Stark. So the best swordsman that ever lived, who you mentioned earlier on, Nathan, Ned Stark held his own against. Ned Stark, honourable Ned Stark held his own against until he didn't, until he was disarmed and he was about to be killed by Sir Arthur Dane. However, Howland Reed, who had been injured very early on in the battle, stabbed Sir Arthur Dane through the back of the throat. Ned Stark picked up Dawn and slew him. So he was about to be murdered in an honourable battle. He was about to be killed, and the honourable Ned Stark dishonourably killed an unarmed man who was stabbed in the back. Just the way that plays out, and then what follows on from that, the fact that Ned hears Bran call his name, but still goes up and finds his sister in the Tower of Joy on a bed of blood underneath a fallen star, the fallen star being Dawn, possibly, laid at the foot of her bed, Sir Arthur Dane's sword made from a fallen star. And the fact that he's then holding Jon Snow in his hands, the bastard who he always would claim is his to protect him, but he's actually a Targaryen. Oh my God, it's just the whole thing is absolutely incredible. Now, I know for a long time there were internet rumors that R plus L equaled J, so Rhaegar and Lyanna were actually in a equal Jon. So Rhaegar didn't kidnap Lyanna and rape her. They were actually in a loving relationship. They got married. They planned to be together. But that entire relationship caused Robert's rebellion, caused eventually the plot of the Game of Thrones to play out.
Because Robert was so jealous.
Jealous.
And he claimed her as his own.
Yes.
And it's a true statement of what Robert was really like. It gives you insight into actually this person who you think was once an honourable man. No, actually, he probably was always a bit of a dick.
Was all he wanted to do. He said it. He said it in the second episode of season 1 that all he wanted to do when he was, or maybe even the first episode, all he wanted to do when he was young was crack skulls and fuck girls. That's all he wanted to do. He didn't want to do anything else. He didn't want to be the king. He just thought, well, I'd probably better be because Ned doesn't want to do it. He wants to go back north. No one else wants to do it. So I guess I'll do it. Fantastic.
I will say the chap who plays young Ned, Robert Arameo, is the lead in the Lord of the Rings show that's coming out on Amazon in a couple of years' time.
Is he?
Is he really?
He is.
Who is he playing?
We don't know yet.
That'll be Aragorn then.
Well, I don't know. Would he not be better as an elf?
Well, he might be better as a young Sean Bean because that's who he's playing. And
I see. Yes.
Well,
double whammy.
That would be hilarious if you played Sean Bean twice.
Yeah. That would be. I mean, that's something to put on IMDb, isn't it? Has anyone ever played Sean Bean twice? And what?
Okay, shall I go for my third one?
Yes, please
do.
It's a total cop-out, but I'm going to read you a whole series of lines, because my favorite bit of Game of Thrones is the dialogue. Let me read you some of these lines, and you tell me that these aren't some of the greatest lines you've ever heard in your life.
Hit me.
The man who passes the sentence should swing the sword. I have a tender spot in my heart for cripples, bastards, and broken things. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or die. I grew up with soldiers. I learned how to die a long time ago. Never forget what you are. The rest of the world will not. Wear it like armor, and it can never be used to hurt you. The day will come when you think you are safe and happy, and your joy will turn to ashes in your mouth. The night is dark and full of terrors. You know nothing, Jon Snow. Night gathers, and now my watch begins. A Lannister always pays his debts. What do we say to the god of death? There's no cure for being a cunt. I've seen wet shits I like better than Walder Frey.
My God!
That's what I do. I drink and I know things. I am the dragon's daughter, and I swear to you that those who would harm you will die screaming. A lion does not concern himself with the opinions of sheep. I could go on all day. This show is absolutely jam-packed from the beginning to the end with incredible dialogue. Incredible dialogue.
Absolutely right, Nathan. Absolutely right. Do you know what I thought you were going to throw in there and you haven't?
What's that?
I thought that you might throw in there the conversation that Tywin has with Tyrion when Tyrion says he wants to be made named as the inheritor of Casterly Rock.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Tywin
I would
says
let myself
that
be consumed by maggots before mocking the family name and making you heir to Castle Rock.
that's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. I just there's so much. There's so much in here.
There's some great one-liners. Absolutely awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
brilliant.
Yeah,
Absolutely
so,
brilliant.
and I'm scrolling through this website now, and it's just constant. There's more than I can ever hope to say, and I think again a lot of it lifted from the book, not all of it. Some of it actually original and really really fantastic. Really just it's dripping. It's just dripping with whatever it is, that je ne sais quoi, that thing that just you can't help but listen to and can't help but love. So yeah, that's my third favorite moment.
That's a good shout, really. That is a very good shout. Yeah, encompassing all the decent dialogue that drips with venom. Yeah, I like it. Very good.
So what's our final section then, Ben?
So our final section is top 3 episodes and why. Now I've put in here this can be because it left you devastated or destroyed or elated, or it showed the brutality or the realism of what it might have been like in medieval times in a world where summers last for decades and winters even longer, or it might have fantastic payoff. So that was where I was going.
Mm-hmm.
So
I've got one. I've just got one. Should I just throw that at you?
You've got
Oh,
one.
please do.
Out of
Please do.
3,
Yeah,
you've got one. Okay.
Yeah, I've got one because I want to hear what you guys have got to say. So I just want to just throw this out there. For me, it's season 1, episode 1. It's that feeling I had when I first watched it, and thinking, "Oh my God, that's the wall. That's what the wall looks like."
Yeah.
And then, "Oh my God, that's Ned Stark. Of course, that's Ned Stark, and that's all of his family. And there's Robert and Cersei and Jaime. And they're all the people that I know, and can't wait to see what happens to them." And the direwolves being found, and the sorry, forgive me, the whites, the others, they're given different names in the show.
The White Walkers. Yeah.
But they're called different things to what they are in the book, and they do look different later on. Don't get me wrong, they changed the design of them, but seeing them and Ned beheading the Garrow. I can't remember the guy that runs away from the Night's Watch.
Yeah. The guy goes beyond the wall on arranging it before the credits, basically, and is
and
you
feel for both of them. Like you're like, yeah, Ned Stark has to do this because the man who's passes a sentence has to swing the sword, and you swear to the Night's Watch, you stay in it. But at the same time, we've also just seen the scene that he just saw, and he saw the White Walkers, and he saw what that happens to them, and he saw his fellow Night's Watchman turn. You know, it's a great episode. It's a great pilot episode, and they reshot quite a lot. Apparently, the original pilot episode is not very good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there were a few different castings. So Cat Stark was different cast.
Daenerys was different.
Daenerys was different cast. Illyrio was a different actor. Yeah, I just think the first episode is fantastic. And there's so many different things going on, and yet not one of them is boring. Everything in it is like, that's interesting. What's going on with that? I need to know more about that. So yeah, that's my shout, is that first episode.
And the ending as well, Nathan. The ending as well, where Bran is climbing up the all fallen down tower at Winterfell, and he sees Jaime and Cersei together, and then Jaime pushes him out the window, and you just see him falling, and then it fades to black as he falls onto the camera. Just what an ending! Yeah, that's a great shout.
Love. Things I do for love, he says.
Things I do for love.
Yeah, he just walks away, and then I think he then goes in cuddles or with Cersei or something. I don't know if
a little cuddle, just a little cuddle.
Yeah, just a little cuddle, cuddle. Nothing. Else.
Yeah.
Nothing else. All right, thank you, Nathan.
No,
JB, what's your first favourite episode?
So again, not in any particular order, Ben. What I'll do is I will go. I've already mentioned one of the episodes, and that would be the Mountain and the Viper fight.
Okay.
I think it was a great fight, but in this what we're talking about here about devastated, destroyed, or the show's brutality, I think that was one of the most brutal things, as I said before, that I've ever seen. I mean, I can deal with heads being chopped off, limbs being chopped off, arrows in eyes, whatever it might be, dragons eating walkers, whatever it might be. But the fact that a man that, as you said, Ben, maybe the strongest man in the Seven Kingdoms or whatever, is able with his bare hands to crush another human's head is unfathomable. I could not even imagine it. So seeing it is just wow. Yeah, not as in wow good, as in wow. There's puke in my mouth. It's just like it's when I've watched a rerun, I'm like, it's coming. I can see it. It's and I have to turn away because I know it's happening.
Yeah. I'm just looking. You've copied my text exactly, haven't you?
Well, there's no point in putting my text in. I was just like,
shout.
It was easier to do a Control-C and a Control-V on you.
Very good.
But yeah, it's just for its brutalness. Just, oh my God.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Do you want to do your second one then, or shall I go on to my first one?
Go on, Ben. I would like you to roll with this, please.
Okay. Well, in which case then, we've already discussed this one as well, because one of my favourite episodes is season 6, episode 9, The Battle of the Bastards. The revenge of it, the fact that yes, the Starks take back control of Winterfell and Ramsay gets what he deserves. I possibly didn't like that much Sansa feeding him to the dogs, but at the same time, I think as I look back on it in hindsight, do you know what? He deserved it. He fed his stepmom and his newborn half brother to the dogs. So yeah, he deserved it. But another thing that happens. Oh, sorry, Nathan. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that I actually didn't like that bit because it feels like stooping to his level. I almost feel like I would prefer it if she just chopped his head off and that was it. Just walked away. Mic drop. But I see what you're saying. He deserves it. He does deserve it. But
I'm not sure I agree. I think she wants to. I think it's maybe a release for her to say, "Look, this is the pain that you put me through," and do you know what? There you go. Have it. I don't want you to be gone just like that. I want you to feel some of the pain and the torture that I had.
Yeah. Nathan, how do you think George will handle it in the books? Because obviously Ramsay cannot live and keep Winterfell. Obviously, the Starks are going to have to take it back before the long night. Do you think it'll play out roughly the same in the book, or do you think, like you've said, you think he'll just be beheaded, or maybe even killed in the battle, or maybe even killed in single combat with John, and there is no battle?
Yeah, I'm not sure there'll be as many battles. I think because George is quite overtly a pacifist. He doesn't really like war and battle, and so that's an interesting concept with the stuff that he's got in here. And I think the big battles come in the show later when they're off book. I think you get more of that later on.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there'll be some sort of clever sort of plan for a battle, but some sort of machinations happen to cause Ramsay to be usurped without there being a war like that. James?
Ben, you've just posed a really interesting question that I hadn't really thought about in terms of how are the books now? I mean, has this ever been done before where there has been a series of books, a TV show has been made of it, the books haven't finished, the TV show is then made up what would probably be in the books, but obviously author has been involved. But does that mean that, I mean, what we could have is that books could be completely different to the TV show, or is there going to be some sort of line in there, do you think?
Well, the books are completely different to the TV show because there are characters omitted from the books who have major parts within the TV show. Sorry, beg your pardon, vice versa. There are characters omitted from the TV show that are in the books and have major parts, and those major parts are given to like other people who are off doing something else.
Right. Okay.
Or characters are even made up. So
the Greyjoys. I mean, the Greyjoys are hardly in it at all. There's a whole other Greyjoy brother that has a whole fleet of boats. There's also the other Targaryen, Aegon, young Aegon.
Yeah.
Is a character. Yeah, there's loads. That's not in it.
So okay, so it's not. All right. Okay. But it's a quite. I guess it's quite an interesting concept because me again, not read any of the books, and watched the TV show, and how it may then transpire, I think is probably a lot of people may go like off the chain about it and go, well, this isn't what I watched. What on earth is this story?
Just finally on the Battle of the Bastards, of course, the episode is not just the battle. There's more to it than that. So, like I mentioned earlier on, the parley the day before the battle between the Starks and the Stark commanders and the Boltons and the Bolton commanders is a fantastic scene. That's just people talking to each other on horseback. That's all it is. But the threats, the undertones of danger in that are just fantastically brilliant. And also, as I misunderstood earlier on, Nathan, with one of your favorite parts, this episode starts with Dany and her advisors looking like they're about to give up to the slavers in Marine and leave Slavers Bay. And then Drogon shows up. She gets on the back of Drogon and absolutely devastates the slaver fleet and just burns the whole thing to the ground. Yep. It's a fantastic episode of TV. It's one of the most exciting episodes with, bookended with excitement and violence, and in the middle, just people talking. That is just incredibly well done. And of course, as well, one thing in that episode, Davos in that episode finds the remains and the little statue that he gave to Shireen Baratheon, and finds it like amongst a load of ashes on a burnt down funeral pyre. So he knows that the Red Woman had burnt Shireen. He's not very happy about that. This person who just returned Jon Snow to life. Yeah, there you go.
I think Davos is great. He's one of your fave characters, yeah, Nate?
Yeah.
I think he do you know what he feels like? I've been thinking about this. He feels like to me like he'd be your conscious.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's just always that person like, are you sure about this?
That's why he's such a good advisor. Yeah.
That's what he used to Stannis, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, but I think in some ways he just knows he just seems to know what's right all the time. Like if you just listen.
Sorry.
Go on.
Well, he's a commoner, isn't he?
Yeah.
Whereas everyone else is a lord. He's raised up to it.
Yeah, that's true.
So he knows. Well, he is in that speech.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He knows what's really going on, and he's had fights, in the dirt, rather than these theoretical fights that the lords and kings and queens are all talking about. JB, what's your next favourite one? Oh, sorry, Ben.
I was just going to very quickly say about Sir Davos. You know, one of the things I love about him is that you never see him in an actual sword fight, and he always says how bad he is with a sword. There's one scene, you know, when Jon Snow's lying dead on the table before he's brought back to life, where the rest of the Night's Watch want to get in and and, you know, sort of get Jon's body out and kill all of them. Davos takes out Jon's sword and says, "Apologies for what you're about to see," and draws the sword out, and he's like, he knows he's not going to be any good. You know, of course he's been knuckled as well, hasn't he? So he hasn't got full control over one hand. Yeah, he's a brilliant character. Sorry, went off on one.
That's all right, that's good.
James, what's your next one?
So my next scene
Episode
is the one where Ned basically loses his head. All right, so he gets beheaded. It's, you know, reiterating what I've said already about just watching the TV show. You got this actor Sean Bean, who is hugely famous, like a big dude in the acting world. I'm just like, there is no way in hell that this dude is gonna lose his head, and if it does, I'm gonna be shocked. And I was shocked, and I was gobsmacked, and you're just like, well, what's gonna go on? What's happening now then? But that's really, from my perspective, where the show really starts kicking off. That's where all these journeys started, as I said about Sansa and Arya. I just couldn't believe it. I just didn't think it. I thought someone would swoop in or swoop in. It's not Superman, but some army would come in from the north to just go, hang on a minute, chaps, what's going on here?
Yeah. Right up until the moment that he is beheaded, you think, he won't be beheaded.
No, he'll be all right in a minute.
But of course, like we talked about earlier on, like I talked about with Ned Stark being one of my favorite characters, and like the opening episode, Nate, that you said was your favorite episode.
Yeah.
When the stag is found having killed the direwolf with the direwolf pups, you should know from that very first episode that the head of the direwolf with the direwolf sigil, the Stark family, the head of the Stark family, Ned Stark, was going to die. You should know. And it's only when you look back, you're like, oh, yeah, of course. But yeah, you're absolutely right, James. Right up until the moment he's beheaded, you don't think he's going to be beheaded. You think Joffrey will change his mind. He changed his mind. He was going to send him to the wall. He changed his mind and said, oh, no, bring me his head. You just think, he'll change his head before the sword comes down.
Yeah, I think you see Joffrey is like, he is using this Ned Stark, very well respected, powerful man, and he's just playing with him as like he's a little toy or something like that. He's a football. I'm just gonna kick about, but he just decides, well, I've had my fun now, and that sums up Joffrey as well. Yeah. And you just kind of like, and you just see the faces of Ned's daughters, and you're just like, oh man, how are they gonna?
I want to say one more thing as well about the parallels that are dealt with Ned Stark as a character. Ned Stark has always been honourable, or he's always tried to be honourable. Yeah, he survived by being dishonourable. Okay, once in his life by killing an unarmed man who'd been stabbed in the back. He killed that person. He survived by being dishonourable. He was then convinced in this episode by Varys in the black pits or the black cells beneath King's Landing to be dishonorable again, to say that he actually wanted to do what he didn't want to do, which was, try and get Joffrey murdered or and claim the throne for himself. So he does the dishonorable thing and lies and is killed for it. Isn't that amazing?
What goes around comes around, Ben. That's what's happening there.
Ben, what's your next one?
It's probably quite an obvious one, but I'm going to go with season 3, episode 9, The Reigns of Castamere. Now,
this is the Red Wedding.
This is the Red Wedding, basically. This is the episode where the Stark family are guests of the Freys, and the Boltons as well are there, and the Lannisters have, through underhand machinations designed it so that the Freys can get revenge over their perceived disrespectful treatment by Robb Stark, and the Boltons can be become the power in the north, and everyone is killed at the Red Wedding by the by the Lannisters via the Freys and the Boltons. Everyone is killed. Catelyn Stark has her throat slit. Robb Stark's wife, who wasn't there in the books, I know, is stabbed, whilst heavily pregnant in the stomach and murdered. Robb Stark is shot with arrows and then stabbed in the heart by Roose Bolton, who delivers one of those fantastic lines you talked about, Nathan.
Yeah.
The Lannisters send their regards, and then bang, dagger in the heart, pulls it out, blood everywhere. And again, it's one of those, like we just talked about, James. You don't think that these heroes that you've been following for 3 seasons, all right, they've lost Ned. They can't lose Catelyn. They can't lose Robb. This can't all happen. That can't happen, but it does.
It does, and
I
I think, Ben, this is a fantastic episode. I like it when they're all they're sat in the room and something's happened, and then I think it's Caitlin gets an idea of something's not quite right, and
yes,
it's the music, and is it there's some of the they've got chainmail on or something, haven't they? Armor on underneath it, and she's kind of like, and she's like, we're in deep shit here. We are in deep shit.
Yeah. So Nathan, you go ahead, because I want to tell James how it plays out. But yeah, you go ahead. You've got something to say.
This episode is the turning point of the show in our world. This is the episode where this is the water cooler moment. This is the moment where people who are big fans have been watching it. People who are nerds have been watching it, and then there are a few other people kind of giving it a go, and then suddenly, in the real world, everyone is talking about the Red Wedding. It's hashtagging on Twitter. It's people are talking at work saying, "Did you watch Game of Thrones last night? Because that was intense." And then suddenly people hear about it, and you're like, "Why is everyone talking about this show? Everyone is talking about this show." And it was this episode. It changed the game for this show. It's obviously been very successful up to this point because it's had 3 seasons and it's been greenlit for a 4th. But it's at this point where suddenly it thrusts it into the mainstream.
It's the zeitgeist, right, Nathan?
Yeah, absolutely, the zeitgeist. Yeah,
it's in everyone's public consciousness. Everyone's talking about it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So the way Catelyn Stark figures out something's going on, James, is that someone goes up and pulls and closes the doors to where the feast is taking place and locks it. And as they're walking away, there's a band up on like a mezzanine just above them that start playing the Rains of Castamere. Now, the Rains of Castamere is a song that's associated with the Lannisters, and it's called the Rains of Castamere because as a young man, Tywin Lannister had to deal with a family who pledged fealty to him, the House Rain, basically. And Castamere is close to Casterly Rock. Now, they had some ideas above their station. Tywin's father was a little bit sort of lax and loose with them. So Tywin dealt with them. And I do believe, Nathan, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do believe history says that he killed most of them. And the ones that he didn't kill, they were all locked up in their castle and the castle was flooded. And they were all killed.
That right, but I'm not sure. But yes, I mean, he definitely killed them all.
It's something along those lines.
Yeah.
So I think there's a line in the song that says, "And now the Rains weep over their whores, and not a soul to hear." So basically, because they're all dead. So Catelyn Stark hears that, and she's like, "That's a Lannister song. Why is a Lannister song, who we're at war with, playing at a wedding that we're at? What's going on here?" And yeah, then Lord Walder Frey then starts making a speech, and Roose Bolton sort of nods down to his sleeve, and she pulls his sleeve back and sees that he's wearing chainmail. And of course, the whole thing happened the way the Freys were convinced to do it, to turn on the people they pledged fealty to and were bannermen of, was because Robb Stark, who had to cross the Twins, the big castles on either side of this great big river, had pledged to marry a Frey girl, and he had broken his pledge, done the dishonorable thing, married for love, which is not what really happens in the world of Game of Thrones. And when it does, it always goes wrong. And Walder Frey had never forgiven him and wanted revenge.
You wouldn't forgive anyone for that either. You just wouldn't.
The thing is he plays it very well, because Rob Stark goes there and he's basically apologizing and he's saying, it was dishonorable of me and I'm sorry, my ladies, I dishonored all of you. But don't worry, you can marry my uncle because he's bloody useless. And What a Phrase seems to be accepting of that right up until the moment that he doesn't. Nathan, what have you got to say?
They changed the line. In the book, it's Jamie Lannister sends his regards.
Is it really?
Yeah, because
Is it?
yeah, there's more of a contest between Jamie Lannister as the general of the Lannister army and Robb Stark as the general of the Stark army, because Jamie becomes captive. He captures him, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Robb's army captures Jamie, and then Jamie is then released by Catelyn and sent off to go and be
So
better.
a lot of that in the show plays out through Tywin rather than Jamie, because in the show Tywin has this, has Arya as his cupbearer, whereas that doesn't happen in the books. And Tywin makes mention of the fact that Robb Stark is obviously not the green boy we all thought he was. His men worship him. He's a very capable battle commander, and he's not going to fail unless we help him. Tywin uses those words, and helps him by setting up the Red Wedding and killing everyone.
Yep.
Brutal.
Yep.
All the time, of course. Poor Sansa's down in King's Landing, married to Tyrion at this point. Just unbelievable. Unbelievable. Yeah. Nathan, have you got a second favorite episode? Or
No. I'm happy for you guys talking. You guys keep talking.
Okay, JB, what's your third favorite episode? Are we on to your third?
Yeah. So I've gone for a heartbreaking episode, and this comes from the middle of season 6, The Door, where we've got a character, Hodor, and he's just we like the dude. The dude is there. And then I'm getting a bit emotional. I can feel it. Honestly, I'm 2 beers in and I'm feeling a bit emotional. And you get the backstory and of him, and then he then dies, and it's just gut wrenching. I felt flooded with emotion. It was it's like one of your mates had gone. That's what I felt like.
It's like he's disabled for nothing and lived his entire life for nothing and then died for nothing.
Yeah, no.
That's what it feels like the whole episode, and that's why it's so depressing for me. It's just like, but I mean, good depressing, if you can be such a thing. But like the show gives you that, it makes you feel that, because you're like, Bran did this to him. Bran did this to him in the past, and he did it to him in the present as well. Like,
yes,
it's unforgivable of Bran. I think actually, I'm not a big fan of Bran.
No,
it just goes to show how dangerous a power Bran is learning, because he, through no perceived fault of his own, but just for the fact that he can't control what he's learning to do, he goes back in time and sees young Hodor, what's his actual name? He's not called Hodor, is he? Wallace, I think he's called, isn't he?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
He sees Wallace. Wallace sees him. He knows he shouldn't be able to see him, but he does. And then through this time loop link, whilst Mira's shouting to him, hold the door, he's shouting, hold the door, hold the door, hold door, hold door, hold door, hold door. And I just remember sat there watching it, and I was in bits. It's just so sad. I mean, it's fantastic writing. It's fantastic writing. And I don't know about you, Nathan, but I don't think this came straight from George R.R. Martin.
Yeah,
George R.R. Martin told them where Hodor came from and why he's called Hodor. So the writers may have, the showrunners may have written it in the way that it shows out on the screen, but the story element, the plot point itself, is straight out of George R.R. Martin. There's no way this isn't not, and it's just brutal. And of course, as well, the other good thing about this episode is you see how deadly the Army of the Dead are.
Yeah.
Now, you do see that before this episode, of course, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but you see them when they swarm, they cannot be stopped. No. They can't be stopped. Bran and Mira get away through sheer dumb luck and through Hodor sacrificing himself, as he always knew he was going to have to do.
Is this where we get Cold Hands?
Yes, the next episode. Yeah, Uncle Benjen shows up.
Yeah, that was a letdown, wasn't it? I'm not going to go to negatives.
Yeah, I get you. Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's a
great
good shout.
Great shout. Yeah,
Good
great
shout.
episode. Yeah.
And
Very
again,
hot.
the music in that episode when Hodor is sacrificing himself, it's like the stark sort of melancholy music, and it just pulls at your heartstrings every time.
It does.
Every time.
So Ben, finish us off. What's your favourite last episode? Blah, blah, blah. Finish off for the blah, blah, blah.
Do you want me to do
Ben.
it, Nate? Nate,
Yeah.
do you want me to do it?
Ben, finish
Ben,
us off with your
Ben,
last
it's how we would like to. Can you just finish us off, mate? Can you just tell us what your last favourite episode is, pretty please?
Tell you what, I'll finish us off with my last favourite episode of Game of
Well
Thrones.
done, Ben. Well done.
It's easy for you to say.
So, my favourite episode, and we talked about just a minute ago about you seeing the White Walkers and the Army of the Dead and how dangerous they are. The first time you see really how dangerous they all are as a combined force is in season 5, episode 8, Hard Home. Now, Hard Home in the books plays out through letters, I believe, to Jon as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, whereas in the show, Jon as Lord Commander of the Night's Watch goes to Hard Home, which is a little peninsula north of the Wall in the land of always winter, or where the wildlings live, basically. And they are trying to convince all the wildlings that are left there, who've got nothing to hunt because nothing lives there anymore, to come south of the Wall with them and help them to protect the realms of men. Now, Jon goes there in the show with Tormund, and Tormund has to kill the Lord of Bones to sort of make sure that he's, listened to and understood. One's there, and he sort of sides with Tormund. And Tormund finally convinces all the other wildling commanders to sort of listen to Jon, because Jon really does have their best interests at heart. And then all of a sudden, in the background, you see like this cold mist sort of coming down off the mountainside, and then far off at the back of the wildling camp, you start to see people screaming and running away, and suddenly that's getting closer and closer and closer, and the wildling commander, one of the Thens, says to close the gate, and then the Army of the Dead and the White Walkers attack, and it is an absolute slaughter. Go ahead, Nathan.
It's the first time you find out that Valyrian steel can stop the White Walkers.
Yes.
Not only can it stop the White Walkers, it can stop their swords, but it also can kill them. And it's the bright moment in that absolute depths of depression of an episode.
Well, I like that, but I also like the bit where the Night King then just kind of stood there watching Jon, because Jon's on a boat, isn't he? Doesn't he get away? And there's a standoff. They're looking at each other, and then the Night King just it's almost like a clicking of fingers, starts reviving people.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh shit, I've got to kill you twice.
This is the thing. You know that the White Walkers can raise the dead. You know that. But still, when you actually see it happen on the screen, it's such a surprise, because there's a wildling, a female wildling, I can't remember her name, but she basically says goodbye to her daughters and sends them off on the ships to go south of the Wall. And then she said, I've got to stay and help the old folks get out. And she's killed by a bunch of children, whites.
Yeah.
Which is brutal. It's absolutely brutal, because she's a really good warrior, but then she sees all these children looking at her, and she can't do it. She can't kill them. She's just said goodbye to her children, and they swarm her and they cut her to bits. And when she comes back to life along with all the other ones, even though they can do that, they have that in their arsenal. It's so unbelievable, because you've never seen it before. They all just open their eyes, stand up, and every single person that the Army of the Dead had killed, which was literally 90% of everyone that was there at Hard Home, stands up and is now part of the army, and it's just incredible.
I think one of the reasons why I think I agree with you, Ben, this is one of the best episodes, is it adds the layers onto what I felt was the real threat of the show. And I think I'm not going to go into a show bashing, because we've all got stuff to say about season 7 and 8 or whatever, or 6, 7, and 8.
Mm-hmm.
but the threat of the White Walkers is kind of dealt with very quickly later on, and that was for me that was in season 8, and then there's more, right?
Yeah.
For me, that's the story that I'm interested in, and maybe that's George's trick. Maybe he's made me think that that's the story, and actually the real story is Daenerys. But I can't help but think that actually that threat is the thing that's been building for so long that it's the real threat and the real thing. And this episode of the show really highlights that. And you go, okay, exclamation point! They're the ones to worry about.
Yeah.
I happen to agree with you, Nate, because it felt for me that after that episode and the way that the show was going, that every king and queen and human were going to come together to be able to try and take the Night King on, and it really didn't. Well, it really didn't happen like that. And
Yeah.
I think that was slightly disappointing, because I think, as you said, the show was building, and then it got to the point, and then it was just like, oh yeah, it's done by now. It's done by now. And you're like, hang on a minute, really?
Yeah. Because of such great episodes. Sorry,
Yeah.
Ben, but because of such
go
great
ahead.
episodes like Hard Home, Hard Home really does. It's such a great episode, and it makes you feel so with the humans.
Yeah.
I cannot watch that episode of Game of Thrones. I cannot rewatch it and not feel every time the creeping terror and dread crawling across my skin of just before that the Fen puts his eye through like a little hole in the makeshift sort of fort that they've got there, and a dead soldier runs at him basically, and then suddenly they're all swarming in and they're all sweeping onto it. It's just incredible, absolutely incredible.
It just reminds me of like ants or termites or something just going over, like hundreds of, like a plague of locusts hitting like a crop of corn or whatever like that, and it's just gone within seconds.
Yeah, they are a force of nature. They cannot be stopped.
We didn't even mention the cliff. They jump off the cliff first.
Yes, at one point, the Night King sends a whole bunch of them falling off the cliff,
and it's horrific. You're like, oh my god, he's ordering these beings, which obviously are dead, but they're still human looking, just to jump off a cliff, and that's how he gets his army to them.
Yeah, and then they all stand up and they run at him again. Oh, it's just fantastic.
There's an interesting bit, again, going back to the books. The Lord of Bones isn't in that scene in the books because sorry, remind me, Ben, what's the King of the North called?
Oh, Mance Rayder.
Mance Rayder. I don't know why I've got a mental block for him. I always forget his name. In the books, Mance Rayder and the Lord of Bones are their appearances are shifted by the red by Melisandre.
Oh, really?
And so when they burn Mance Rayder at the stake, it's actually the Lord of Bones that's being burned, and Mance Rayder sneaks off as Lord of Bones and goes south. So the Lord of Bones isn't killed in that scene. He's not there. He's actually at the wall at the Night's Watch at that point. So great shout with that episode, Ben.
Yeah, it is a really good shout.
Thank you. And that concludes our best parts of Game of Thrones, the things we really liked about it. I mean, as a whole, I know we've all got issues like we talked about. We don't want to bash the show. We know we've got issues of how it ended, but as a whole, it was a phenomenon, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It really was.
I do want to go back and watch like some key episodes.
Do you know what?
I feel like doing that now.
Nate, I was feeling exactly the same. I think I could easily watch the first episode now and just kind of, and I think it would I think I'd feel a bit sort of like, oh, actually, should I do this again? But I think I'd only go up so far. I think I would admit, we've talked a lot about shows and the number of seasons that they have, and then also the number of episodes that they have. I think up to what are we saying? Where it went wrong? Season for you, Nate, it was what, 7? No,
5 and 6. It starts to wobble for me. That's when it starts to. It's some of the plot lines in 5 and 6 are part of the book, and some of the plot lines in 5 and 6 are not part of the book, and that's where it muddies a little bit. But that's where it starts to go off slightly. The books do a weird thing where book 3, there's a whole series of characters that just aren't in it, and then
Nice.
4 goes back in time and retells the story of everything you've read already, but from the point of view of the characters that weren't in it.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's difficult. I think that's the show had difficulty with that, trying to, because there's so many characters and so much rich stuff going on. I think the show definitely had trouble
Yeah.
putting all of that in the same timeline at the same time. So that's probably why I think it starts to go a
Yeah.
little wobbly at that point. But
Danny,
yeah,
are you feeling the same as what Nate's saying,
Um,
or are you a bit later on?
to a degree, I think I very much enjoy season 6. I mean,
Mhm.
it's got the Battle of the Bastards in season 6, and the whole cathartic release of not only John coming back to life after everyone said, "Oh yeah, he's definitely dead. He's dead. There's no coming back. He's dead. He's dead." Well, he does come back. And then they take back Winterfell from the Boltons. I mean, that is just incredible. Other stuff that happens in season 6, like is it season 6 or is it season 7? Which is the season where Cersei blows up the
7. I think
that
the
7? Because that was very close to being one of my favorite episodes, where she God, I got to find out what it's called now. Bloody hellfire!
Cersei blows up. Sept. Googling.
Yeah, blows up the Sept of Baelor. Yeah.
One moment, please. Hold, please, caller.
So, you do realize that people are screaming at us right now, don't you?
I don't care. I still can't find it.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of, because I haven't read the books, as I've said. I notice that something changes within the seasons, and it probably kind of picking up with what Nate says from about season 5 or whatever, and then there are no books to work from or anything else like this. But if you say up to season 5, which we're talking about, what is it, 10 episodes per season, I think. So we've got 50 episodes, yeah, of
Plus,
actually really good. I mean, we talk about and have said that Watchmen is probably one of the best things we've all watched, and that was just that one season. But actually, Game of Thrones was consistently good across all of those seasons.
50 hours of incredible TV. Yeah, you've worded it so well, James.
I found the episode, by the way. It is season 6. It's episode 10. It's The Winds of Winter, it's called.
That's right, yeah.
Cersei and Loras Tyrell stand trial by the gods. That the opening 10-15 minutes of that episode is all like a series of montages to an incredible song called The Light of the Seven by Ramin Djawadi, whatever he's called, the show composer. I encourage you to go back and just watch maybe the first 20 minutes of that episode, because it's incredible, and it ends that sort of start of the episode ends with not only the Sept of Baelor exploding in wildfire and that sort of moving down the streets, which is obviously Cersei's ultimate revenge for them making her do the walk of shame back completely naked. But it also then, right after that, the king jumps out of a window and kills himself, or a common Baratheon. It's fantastic. Yeah. So, James, I guess to answer your question, I think I enjoy season 6 and the majority of season 7. And 8, I have good bits and bad bits. I mean, the whole the long night and the episode before that, which is just like where they're going into the eve of battle and they're sort of, people are coming together for the first time in a long time. There are some really great episodes in season 8. There really are. But there are some problems with it, but there are great episodes.
It's a phenomenal TV show. It's right up there with Sopranos, I believe, The Wire, etc. I mean, I'm just looking up now. I thought I'd look at just to find out how many episodes it is, and Wikipedia tells me that per season it says about the average US viewers. So season 1 says 2.52 million viewers. How many do you think watched season 8? And don't look it up. Just don't stop your typing. Nearly 12 million.
Wow.
That's what it says. Average US viewers in millions. That is absolutely off the chain.
I believe if my maths are correct, that's 5 times as many. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should. You've been home teaching. You've been home learning there, boy.
James, I wanted to say one more thing actually, because I meant to bring it up and I totally forgot. on your episode, The Door, your last favorite episode.
Yeah.
When it aired in the in the US, when it aired, because it aired at like 2:00 in the morning, in UK time, the character who played Bran, the actor who played Bran, Isaac Hempstead Wright, tweeted, "Nice one, Bran," right after the episode ended, and you saw that Bran, through his inability to control his powers, broke Wallace and made Hodor. Yeah,
Right.
he tweeted, "Nice one, Bran," and I never forgot that. I just thought that was a nice that was a nice touch, because even the actor himself realised that Bran was a bit of a douchebag and made that poor guy live a horrible, horrible life that he shouldn't have had to live. But there you go.
Exactly.
There you go.
So let's wrap it up. Ben, where can people find us to tell us what they think about the Game of Thrones and what their favourite episodes were and their favourite characters?
Well, they can find us on all the social media channels. So they can find us on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. They can send us an email, which is nerdschatting@outlook.com. This podcast is available on YouTube and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. I think it's on TuneIn as well. I might be wrong. But just do a Google search for Nerds Chatting, all one word, and you will find us.
Brilliant. And I think we are coming back in a couple of weeks' time to do a deep dive. There's something wrong with my teeth today. I think we're coming back in 2 weeks' time to do a deep dive review of Ghostbusters from the 80s. James is shaking his head.
I haven't seen it.
So look forward to that one. Yeah, thanks very much for tuning in, everybody.
Well, I want to say one thing just before we disappear, okay? Just before we disappear, I want to say one final thing. If you like this podcast and you're still listening at this point, please go on to your podcast of choice and leave us a review. A 5-star review would be great. If you want to leave another review, that's fine. But it does help other people find our podcast. So if you can do that, it would be great. I'm going to read out a podcast review right now.
Okay.
It's from the 31st of March this year. It's from someone called Nicola_HulkPod. Never heard of her myself. You ever heard of her?
She's probably an idiot.
Like we
I'd
all
never
are.
go that far.
She says, music, TV, comic chat. Thanks for tuning in. 5 stars. Always look forward to tuning in to these 3 lovable idiots. I really do love their rapport and witty back and forths. You genuinely feel like you're having a chat with your friends. Some of the most lovely and knowledgeable chaps out there too. So if you're looking for a new podcast to add to your collection, do yourself a favor and get this into your downloads.
She's written that in the wrong box. I think she went for another podcast she meant to write that into.
So if you want to be read out for a 5-star review on this podcast, then maybe we might give you something for a 5-star review. We never know. We might do. We'll talk about that off air, guys. But yeah, if you want to leave us a review, it helps other people find us. So please go ahead. That would be great. Yeah, that's
Brilliant.
it.
Well, yeah, like I said, we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time. And thanks very much for tuning in.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Bye-bye.